the sketches that
Isn't that great?
That is adorable. I love it.
Isn't that awesome?
Going,
Yeah.
I have to stay up for another half hour.
Right. At 9 o'clock, we were like almost snoring in the chairs. We're like, oh wait, we're supposed to be awake. We're supposed to be awake. So we pulled out.
I justified myself as the same thing I've seen in my life. But I did make it a point to get up in time to actually watch the movie. Because that is my New Year's Eve tradition. Actually, March to my junior year, so that was LA, that's 5-6 minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to transition us over so that the audience can see us. If somebody can check the stream and do something, that would be awesome.
Sure.
And I will fix our... We're not exactly centered and everything, but I will fix our images when I get a chance here, when somebody's going to end up doing the recap. So, is anybody looking at the stream?
Yep, it's up and everything
Perfect.
looks and is looking and sounding.
Awesome. Well, welcome to DnDeBrief session 15, where I have no idea what's going to happen again. You guys are a group that's really hard to prep for. But in any case, I am DM Samuel, and I am your host this evening, and I'm here with my awesome players, one of who is eating, so I will not ask her to introduce herself. Matt, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us who you play?
Hello, Happy New Year. I'm Matt. I am playing Khonnos, the CL Warlock.
And Nina?
Hello, I'm playing Emmeryn, who is a human Tempest Cleric.
Awesome. And David.
I play Axley, the halfling bard.
Okay, now I can.
Okay,
At least while I'm not eating.
and Karu.
I am playing Marcel, the Lutrinian sorcerer.
Nice. Okay, so who wants to do a recap?
Not
This
me,
is-
I'm eating.
Yeah, the famous question. That's a great excuse of why you shouldn't give the recap. Who's got notes?
Does someone take notes?
I did. I did a thing.
I think Nina should be the one to recap this one.
So we started with the interrogation of like our live friend and our dead friend, the goblins. Where did I start? Yeah, and it was mostly just difficult to get kind of straight answers from them. They were both kind of saying things that we'd already heard before, but that we don't really know anything about. We kind of were just deliberating on what we were going to do, and Emmeryn sat down and activated one of the lenses and kind of took a look around that laboratory and found her mother in being held hostage there, essentially. And so now we're kind of debating on what to do. Tadius came into play at one point in time. Kind of talked to us about like closing the gates to the green plateau to open the blue plateau and like the cube and different things like that. But we found out that she was on the dark plateau. And I think we were kind of discussing using the curiosity to get there. Khonnos also has a gate spell that we don't know if it's a use once only type of thing. So that's kind of an issue, but it's also an option. And then we also have the cube that has all of the symbols of the plateaus on them. But we were just kind of in the middle of deciding, and I think we kind of went with the curiosity at the very end. Anything else?
There was also, well, Khonnos was essentially told the Hokka chief that, he was honored to be considered, their new leader, but he wasn't going to take up that mantle, at least not right away, because we were trying to essentially save other parts of the other world as well as their own island. And we're realizing, this is more and more just connected. So the things we're seeing on their island, we've seen in other places, and we're like, well, it's a good idea to try to stop this elsewhere before, at least before he kind of returns and maybe settles here with the Hokka. We talked a lot about different types and ways of traveling between planes and whatnot. It was a really good like metaphysics type of world building session for that.
Yeah.
We did learn. I think we did like speak with Dad on the dead goblin. We did get some information out of there as far as like the lenses and the gates and whatnot. And then there was some nice discussion about the amulet that Marcel had been wearing, and some shenanigans and trickery kind of having to do with that.
I'm sure Marcel knows nothing about what you're talking about. And there was one other thing, right? When Axley went back to the ship to retrieve the rods, he saw that there were 7 other ships next to your ship now, but they're apparently Hokka longships. So that was a bit of information that might end up being important.
And then we basically were deciding whether we were going to like try to go rescue Emmeryn's mother, depart for Calport by some method, or go back to the temple to deal with the sort of howling creature that was trapped in the coral there. I think that's what last one was kind of what we were leaning towards.
Right. So that's actually that's the question of the hour then, is what are you going to do next?
Does anyone have any idea how travel between planes works? Like if you open a gateway that takes you from one plane to the next, geographically, do you appear in the other plane in like geographic synchronicity with where you are now, and then say in that other plane you travel hundreds of miles and then you open a portal again and go back through? Do you go back where you started from, or do you go back where that new point corresponds to back to your other plane?
I think that depends on what kind of magic or what kind of items you're using to create the portal or the gate or the ladder. I know there's like about 3 or 4 different terms from plane to plane to plane. It may depend on what plane you're trying to go to as well. I know the spell I've got, as supposedly it will let me go with like pinpoint precision to wherever I like. If I want to go to exactly a certain place, we'd wind up in exactly that certain place. Other spells, and I'm not sure. Like we don't know for sure like what the cube would do. We don't know for sure what the curiosity would do. It's one of those things where we pretty much have to just try it and I think see where we wind up, and then then we'll know.
And we have to try something consistent, I think, because if we mix 2 different methods, it's likely we're going to end up somewhere we didn't plan on being. Because like if with your spell, if we teleport direct and then we use one of the other devices to try to get back, I would think it's likely we're not going to directly come back. We're going to, since we're somewhere now in a totally different location, the planes will link in a completely different place,
right?
And then we'll be stranded somewhere else.
Right. We kind of agreed, and Tadius had the suggestion, the advice as well, that if we were basically use the gate spell to make our way back, so that way we can control for sure where we're going to wind up. And as far as getting to whether it's the blue plateau, the dark plateau, wherever, we kind of rely on one of our other methods and either try to learn as much as we can or just hope for the best.
Okay. Well, I think we should try to go on at least attempt the rescue mission, because we know that we have this fleeting opportunity potentially to try to get a couple of things. One, to rescue Emmeryn's mother, but then also we want to get to that laboratory to maybe find some information, find out where it is,
that book
what's
we found,
there.
that we saw.
That's right. Yeah, the book of was it not book of passages? It started either with a P or a T.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we could test things out with the curiosity. My question for the gate spell, would that include something like a moving ship?
I've been wondering about that. How wide is our ship? Because what it says it does is it literally just opens a portal that's like I think 20 feet wide. So if you're thinking like we sail the ship right through that, you can. The portal is circular. You can make it up to 20 feet in diameter, and you can.
I don't think our ship fits through that, but I don't think we want to take our ship because the other side probably doesn't have water.
Yeah, good point.
I know our plane is flooded with water, but I don't think that necessarily is going to be the same on the other planes, especially if the water came from another plane.
And didn't we also kind of think that from what we learned from the information about the planes, it seemed like the reason potentially why our plane is flooded was because someone like popped a couple drains into the water plane and let all the water drain into ours?
Yeah. I think that's our working theory right now. Honestly, my suggestion would be to use the curiosity to do a bit of testing, coming back and forth, see how it works, because we don't know how the curiosity works. We really haven't tested that out. Right. And go to the shadow plane to see if we can find that. We do have the rod to guide us to where Emmeryn's mom is. And then my other thing was, because my one suggestion was to have the ship start heading to Calport without us. If we can make it back and catch up with them afterwards. And that's where the whole, how does the curiosity work when switching planes comes into play? Because if it's going to bring us back to where we started, then we're going to be here on the Hokka's island, and I don't think the curiosity is faster than our ship. So that we'll have no way to catch up to them.
Yeah, I think we should just tell the Hokka to hang out here, and our intent is to return here as quickly as we can after we complete this mission, and then all depart together. That way we're not sending everything all over the place and then have to figure out how to.
Yeah, because the only other suggestion I would have is we go with the curiosity and then use a gate spell to pull the curiosity back to the ship itself, using the ship as your anchor
landing point.
Yeah.
All right.
Because if we're only gonna like, that's the big thing. We don't know if this is gonna take a day or a week.
Yeah.
Or how time passes between
No.
planes. So
There's also the matter of the coral altar back in the temple here. If we use the gate spell to return to the ship, and that's been sailing for some time, then we're quite a ways away from here. And I know
True.
and personally I've wanted to get that resolved before we depart for Calport. But I know that time is pressing when it comes to rescuing Emmeryn's mother as well. So I don't want to. The altar is a concern for me, but it's also not going anywhere for the moment. So
that's true. And we also said that we wanted to deal with the altar because that way we know ahead of time what we're facing.
as far as the 9 howling creatures, and that's supposed to be like one of the little ones.
Yeah.
So in terms of, was someone asking how fast the curiosity goes? Or
Yeah.
you're saying you don't
Yeah.
know how fast it will
Well, how fast
translate
is it?
between planes?
Well, we haven't tested the planes, so that's kind of fair, or how it works in terms of where it pops us out in. We kind of have to test that on our own. But
Yeah.
I feel like we would know exactly how fast it is in the water compared to our ship, at least, because I'm pretty sure we've tested it out by now.
Yeah, we did sail it away from the pirate ship, so we do have at least an idea of how fast it goes. At least Axley and I do.
Yeah.
And is it a real reliable long distance form of transportation, or does it only have a limited range and then has to stop?
I think we've figured out that it had something like an operational time that you could use it.
I was
per
gonna
day.
say I'm looking at my notes and it's
think that was
the
underwater.
only thing. Yeah, the only thing I have written down is 10 hours per number or over the number of people.
That's
That's
the
10
amount
hours
of air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I have written down on it.
So that's
Because
how many.
because it's going to have to
Everyone-
crawl across land, most likely. I mean, like, we're not counting on there being water
Yeah.
to travel through.
I mean, it would be nice to know what the speed in water is, anyways, so that, like, should it come to that, know if it's faster or not than our ship at full sail. So if it's not on the ship, can it keep up with the ship? Can it catch up to the ship if it's behind, etc.?
Well, we know
I-
it can fly.
I was gonna say, can it fly?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it can
Yeah,
fly.
but
I
limited.
forgot
I mean,
about
For
not
how long is the
indefinitely.
question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to fly it all the way to Calport, but for short bursts.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that making it swim is probably fine to go to Calport, but I'm just thinking I don't know how far we have to go to get to the tower once we switch planes, and I don't know how fast it is on land. But these are all things that we're probably going to have to test out.
Yeah, the only thing you really know is how fast it is in the water and how much air it has in it. Which Emmeryn was correct. It's 10 hours of air divided by the number of people.
2.5 hours of. No.
Yeah.
2.5 hours of air.
But then, you just go to the surface, you pop the top for a few minutes and it refills, right?
Yeah.
Provided you can,
Or you just somehow go along the top of the water and then you don't have to submerge it entirely.
Right.
Just keep the air intake open.
We were also worried about, if we're traveling to the Dark Plateau, are we going to have any kind of weird effects that are just going to be coming on us just by being there? If we stay inside the Curiosity, that would sort of protect us from that. So it's like an open air submarine, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's not that bad. It's just a bunch of shadows, right?
Mhm.
That's why it's called the shadow plane.
It just has bad lighting. That's all it is.
Yeah. There's no sun. Maybe that's it. There's no sun and
Well, it's the Dark Plateau.
Dark plateau.
So,
Yeah, see?
yes,
No
see,
sun.
it's just a flat area with no light, So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's
Khonnos-
nothing else, no other problem.
Khonnos is used to that from all the deep sea diving he's done.
Yeah, no, we're fine. It's just dark.
All right, so are we in agreement that that's our top priority then?
I think that's the best way to try to
Yeah.
get through.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we take the Curiosity for a ride.
Okay, so you're not going to
Ye-
go back to the temple?
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think we can wait on that.
I think.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna say we tell the Hokka not to go in there just yet without us.
Yeah.
I think we did tell them that. To be
Okay.
fair.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe keep a few people. I'd ask them maybe have a few people stay near it just to keep an eye on it. Just make sure no one else goes in and out of it.
Right. I just want to remind you of a point that that Marcel made. They said, well, it's possible because you know that there are a specific number of these dogs. It's possible that, and then you know there's a big one because Bolam told you that it's possible that destroying the smaller ones will weaken the large one.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am definitely I want that thing dead. I understand that Emmeryn is a bit distracted right now with her mom,
Mm-hmm.
but we're gonna have to come back here and destroy that thing before going to Calport.
Oh yeah, that. Yeah.
Okay, so what's your plan?
We're gonna grab the
Well,
Curiosity.
We have to. Well, let's gear up. Get all our stuff. Let's not just abandon the Hokka. Let's tell them that to wait for us. We'll be back as soon as we can. We're going on a rescue mission, and we'll return to this point. Because I assume the intent is the extra boats that showed up. They're going to travel with us. They plan on traveling with us to our destination.
You don't have any idea because nobody asked them.
Nobody's
Okay. Well, I
asked
guess
that.
we need to do that. We need to figure out. I guess we should have
Hey,
Khonnos do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll make inquiries about what the. We are grateful for the assistance that your fleet has given us. Are they here for? Are they to journey with us, or are they just going to stay here?
Khonnos is asking.
Yes, I'd ask their translator to essentially talk to their chieftain.
So the council met and the chief expressed to them that you declined to take the leadership role. So they met, and you'll have to speak to them to find out why.
So they're like in meeting right now.
They met, and then that's when they decided to bring the boats out. So the translator doesn't know what the basis of that decision is or what the plan is.
Can I get an audience? Can I have an audience with the council to learn more?
Sure. You or all of you?
Khonnos is fine.
Just me.
Okay. Yes. They usually want to a few minutes to prepare. So
Okay.
meet back here in say 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Because remember, there's still a feast going on. It's still like
Oh, right.
the
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
Right. It's right.
Emmeryn's gonna come. She's restless and curious, so she's gonna join you actually.
Okay.
So while this is going on, can I get the Curiosity out of the ship and take it over to land and just practice like moving it on land and see how it moves, what its speed is, how it moves, like take it over to another side of the island.
You can. Are you telling everybody that's what you're doing?
Yeah.
Are you
absolutely.
gonna do it in front of the Hokka?
No, that's why I want to take it to the other side of the island.
Okay. Is anybody going with Axley?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay. Okay.
That's gonna be a great duo.
Sure. So while Khonnos and Emmeryn are waiting for the council to form, Axley and Marcel go back to the boat. So when you go to the Curiosity, you find sitting right on the chair where the operator would sit that lovely, lovely sword.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, without touching it, we'll just gingerly move it to the side.
How are you
Put
gonna
it in
move
a
it?
corner. We'll put, I guess, pillows under it and lift up the pillows.
Okay. You're not wrapping it up. You're just sort of
No.
cushioning
Yeah.
it in. Okay.
Uh-huh.
You're just gonna put it in one of the corners.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Uh, did you bring the box of rods with you as well?
Yeah. I don't think anyone has their rod. Our rod. I think we put it all back in there. 'Cause,
Well,
we're gonna load up the
you have
curiosity to
you
get
have
to
the rod of seeking, right?
Yes.
Because it's telling you
The
where
rest
to
are in the
go.
box.
Rest are in the box. Okay.
Well, we've been carrying that around because that's how we got Thaddeus when we were in the Hokka village.
Right. Right. Okay. I just want to know if you brought it back to the ship or left it in the Hokka village. Okay. So you move that sword over. And Axley, I need you to roll me a dexterity saving throw with a DC of 12.
Okay. Let's see here. Dexterity saving. I rolled an 8, and then what do I add? My dex bonus?
No, it's a saving throw,
Oh.
so there should be a. I mean, it depends on if you're proficient with dexterity.
Oh,
saves.
saving throws. Okay,
Yeah.
plus. Yeah, so it says +5, so that should be 13.
Okay. So you passed. Okay. As you set the pillow down with that sword on it,
Mm-hmm.
the sword itself moves
Mm.
and it tries to go into your hand that now has the symbol burned into it, because you used your sword.
I haven't used my sword.
Okay, so but you attuned to it. You didn't use
Yes.
it, but you attuned to it. So
Correct.
you have something in your hand. It tries to like move into your palm.
Okay.
So Nina's like, "Oh my god."
I didn't know this. This is new information.
No one knows this because he hasn't
Yeah,
been.
no one's there.
Um.
I'm not there.
But you're fast enough that you move away and it doesn't actually make it to the palm of your hand.
Naughty.
Once you've moved your hand far enough away, it stops sort of moving.
Okay.
Okay, so now both of you.
What was that?
The sword moved. Didn't you see it?
Yeah. Why did it try to go for you?
I think it did. That's why I don't want to pick it up.
I mean, that's fair. I think we're all in agreement that it's a bad idea to touch that thing.
Yeah. Well, I think we're kind of cursed with it. It's along for the ride. I don't think we're getting rid of it.
Yeah, that can't be good.
No, I don't know what it wants or why it's sticking around.
This is the only cursed item we have.
Sure.
Keep telling yourself that.
So we're taking it for a ride. I don't even remember how we supposedly took it off the ship or put it on the. Oh, right, it can fly.
The sword? You mean the sword or the curiosity?
No, I was talking about the curiosity.
Oh. Yeah, it
I
flies.
think we fly it out of the hold.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that's what we do.
Yeah.
Time to see what this thing can do. Wait, if we're flying it out of the ship, the Hokka are definitely going to see it anyways. Are there Hokka on the
There are Hokka bringing back provisions to and from the island and the boats. So, in fact, when you go down to get into the Curiosity, which is like down in the main hold of your ship, you see that thing is stocked to the gills with crates and barrels of provisions. Fruits, dried fruits, vegetables, some kind of weird salted fish thing that you've never seen, and like all of these like goods are in there. And you see they're bringing back goods to and from the long ships as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think they're definitely planning on going on this journey with us, but they just haven't told us.
Either that or they're planning to leave this place, possibly. Like, well, we'll see what Khonnos figures out. But they're gonna see us take this thing off of the ship.
Yeah, so I guess we can't really communicate with them, can we? Tell them to not be alarmed.
Do you think the Curiosity has like an invisibility button? That'd be really useful. Just invisible.
It's like Wonder Woman.
Just start pushing buttons. What could go wrong?
I mean, we can just see what they say. I mean, it's not like we're using it to attack them or anything. They know we're allies. What could possibly happen because they see we have this thing?
So are you telling them anything?
Could I use major illusion? It's a 20-foot cube. Would the Curiosity fit inside it?
The Curiosity is, let's see how big it is.
By the way, Karu, your character sheet's now appearing back on D&D Beyond. You might be able to get a copy of it at this point.
But I already made a new one.
But
Okay.
but I already fixed it. Damn you. Yeah, it's technically a large object. So mechanically speaking, that means it fits in a basically 10-foot by 10-foot cube. So
Okay, so all right, so I'll just cast the spell at 6th level, making it look like just a seagull, and that way it'll stay until
a
dispelled.
giant 10-foot seagull that might scare them worse.
No, just a tiny seagull.
Okay, a regular sized
A
seagull.
normal
Okay.
sized, yeah.
Can you make
Yeah,
something
a
appear
giant
smaller?
50-foot seagull made of fire.
What are you using? Major illusion?
Yeah.
I'm inclined to make that work, but I am curious about Karu's question. So,
Which was what?
If
can you make
an
it
image
appear
look
smaller?
smaller.
Oh.
Because I feel like that could be abused with like, yeah, I'm gonna make this giant look like an ant. I don't need invisibility. Yeah, D&D Beyond is not loading for me at all.
Okay. If you want, I can get screenshot for you.
No, it's okay. I have all mechanically. The only thing I was not sure of was the meta magics I had, but I think I have twin and empowered.
Twin and empowered, yeah.
I have good memory apparently. I remade my sheet based on a 3rd level version.
So, but if that won't work, then I'll just make it look like a flock of seagulls, roughly the same size. Then, which should
Flock of
still be
seagulls
less
won't
than
work.
11.
Yeah.
I mean, basically all you're doing is creating something to block their view from the actual apparatus, the actual
apparatus,
Curiosity. You're not turning the Curiosity into something else. You're blocking its image with an illusory item. So I'll let that happen. That's fine with me. I'm not inclined to say no. That's a good use of that spell, I think. It's creative. So you're gonna fly out of the ship and into the water, or what?
Yeah, we'll go into the water and then go around the island, just so that we can get some test piloting under the water, and then we'll pop out and look for a stretch of beach or something where we can do some ground piloting.
Okay.
In crab mode.
Okay. So you all start to do that. So let's go back to Emmeryn and Khonnos. The council gets ready to talk to you, and the translator comes to you and says they're ready to see you now.
Okay. I'll go on in.
When you go in to talk to the council, you see 5 Hokka there, and the Hokka that you have seen up till now have all looked basically the same. They all looked basically the same age. I mean, it's hard to tell for you because they're not like you. They're humanoid in shape, but pretty much every other aspect of them is completely different from like a human, or a sea elf, or whatever. But you can tell with these 5 individuals that they are old. Most of them don't have a lot of teeth. Their hides are dull rather than shiny and iridescent like the other Hokka. The other Hokka, the way that their coloration is when they're swimming, they are shimmering, so they almost are invisible when they swim because of the iridescence of their scales. But these 5 individuals are so old that they no longer shine. They have no iridescence left in their scales, and they are obviously just flat out old. The chief was not old. The chief was regular, but the chief is also in the room. So there's actually 6 people, 6 Hokka there with you, plus the translator. And when you come in, they all bow to you. The one in the middle of the 5 old ones starts speaking. Of course, they're speaking Hokka, and the translator tells you that they're giving a traditional greeting that they give to honored guests, and then they translate it for you. And then they say, you have asked for this audience. What can we do for you, Keeper of the Coral?
There have been several of your vessels have been docked near our ship, and we see that they have been very generous in helping repair and provision our boat, and I thank you very much for that. We all do. Are they to come with us after we depart, or will they stay here with you?
The elder members of the council, they kind of look over at the Hokka chief, and they say, well, the Hokka are the Hokka have a tradition. It's obvious that they're having a hard time explaining this to you, and trying to find the words that might explain to you what's actually happening. But basically, it's like this. Their tradition is that the entire clan chooses a leader. And once that leader is chosen, that leader stays the leader for as long as they are an efficient leader and effective and all that stuff. And there's also a council of elders that provides guidance and advice and, training and everything to the youth and all that stuff. But the long and short of it is that when you declined to take over, many of the young Hokka basically said, nope, you're it. We choose you as our leader anyway. And informed the Hokka chief that they're going to go wherever you lead them.
All right. I think to Emmeryn, well, we've got our army now, whether we want them or not. All right. Well, who am I to say no to the youth of tomorrow? Well, as it is, we do plan to depart for a short time, but we would be returning here. Are there any of your people who have any knowledge of the Dark Plateau?
They sort of talk amongst themselves for a minute, and let's find out. They really don't. It's they their their conception of the Dark Plateau is all about underneath the ocean. That's the other plane that they think about, which is obviously, so when they start talking to you about it, it's becomes obvious to you that it's not the same. That reference name is not the same for them. That they're obviously not talking about another plane. They're talking about another place to exist, which is under the ocean.
All right. Well, I can promise you this: we will return. We will help, sort out the matter in your temple here, and I promise that I will not betray the trust that the younger Hokka have placed in me.
I don't think they'll let you leave and not follow you.
Okay. Then they should know that we are first plan to travel to a very dangerous place. And pardon me, they should know as much as possible before they make that choice. Then they shouldn't just blindly follow me.
You can take the translator with you and you can tell them yourself. They have been told by the Hokka, the chief, that they are free people, so they can do what they choose, but you have declined their leadership role. So there is a debate now within the council about whether it's a dishonor to you to actually not whether it's a dishonor to not follow your wishes of declining the leadership. So yeah, it's they're sort of in a little bit of disarray, but basically they tell you that you can have the use of the translator for as long as you need it.
Okay. All right. And believe me, I had no intention of causing this rift within your society.
The excuse me, the it's pretty obvious. I mean, you don't get any sort of animosity or anything from them. They're not showing you any sort of, like, they're not upset. They're just telling you facts.
Okay.
As far as you can
All
tell.
right. Okay. All right then. Well, Emmeryn, is there anything you wish to ask our friends here? Otherwise, I think we should be on our way.
I think we should keep moving.
All right. We'll take our leave and we'll ask the translator to accompany us.
Of course. And now what? Are you going to speak to the people?
If Axley is still, if they're still doing their test piloting, I think that's something we'll have to do now.
They are. Yes. So let's go back to them actually.
Okay.
So you're in the water and you travel around the edge of the island in an attempt to get out of sight of the activity with the ships and all that. And you get around to the side and you see on the other side of the island, I mean, you're sort of going around the side of the island, and you see that there is a clearing in the jungle area, and you see that there are there's a lot of movement over there. And so are you floating on top of the water, or how are you traveling right now?
We're cruising under the water.
Okay.
to the-
And then your idea was to get to the beach and go up onto the beach?
Yeah, so pop up and kind of look around, find a spot that look good.
Okay.
And
So
if we don't see a spot, keep going underwater.
Okay, so if you you go for a little while around the edge of the island, and then you rise up to the top and you kind of look at the beach. And the beach has a flurry of activity on it. But the activity is not Hokka. It's obviously not Hokka because the way the creatures are moving, but you're not close enough or sure what they are at the moment.
Should we move in close and check out what it is? Marcel?
I was muted. Yeah, let's go check
Because this
it
might
out.
this might be a problem for us and the Hokka. So yeah, let's see what this is.
We'll go closer.
So you move a little closer and you get almost to the beach, and you see a bunch of those furry, fluffy green creatures that you saw at the very beginning. You see them all foraging right at the edge of where the beach meets the trees. And then after watching them for 2 or 3 minutes, they're pretty peaceful. They don't seem to be perturbed at all. They obviously see you because when you sort of floated up to look at them,
Disturbs the water.
yeah, and they sort of look over and they kind of freeze, and then after a couple minutes, they just start their regular activity. And then after about 2 or 3 minutes, all of a sudden they dart away and they all spread out, separate, and go into the jungle.
Okay.
What furry creatures are these? Are these just like little, like kind of like jungle monkey kind of things?
They're little
Some-
four-legged, like they look almost like a little small mix between like a raccoon and almost like a kiwi, the flightless bird, the
Okay.
kiwi, almost like that, except they're fluffy and green.
Oh my god, I love them.
They are a variety of creature called a pelker, which is native to the planet that you're on, and their fur. There's various different types of them, but their fur is often considered very high quality, and it sells for a lot of money. At least.
Did we see the Hokka using their that kind of fur for their clothing or anything like bedding or stuff in their
Nope.
village?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. So they don't even bother. They don't even touch these things.
Right.
No Palker slippers running around. I guess let's just stay still and see what maybe disturbed them.
Yeah. Can we try looking around, see if we can spot what's?
Sure. You want to roll a
Disturbing
perception
them?
check?
Ooh, I have natural 20.
You look in some of the trees. What did Marcel get?
17.
Okay. You both you're looking sort of at different areas, but you look into the trees, and these are typical like jungly, tropical island types of trees. They have very broad leaves. They're very tall, and their trunk usually doesn't have much on it till you get to the top. And they often have, different fruits and whatnot hanging from them. But you notice that some of the fruits up in the top of 2 or 3 of the trees, they're starting to like shake and move as though they're going to fall down. But as you see that, you're looking at it, and instead of falling like a coconut might fall from a really tall coconut tree, you see that the roundish thing bursts, and a bunch of fluids and whatnot come out of it and spray out and slide down the tree and all that. And then you see a little blue head look around and start to climb down the tree. And as you look around, you see that start to happen, and you see 3 or 4 of those.
Are those goblin eggs up in the trees? Is that what I'm seeing?
Didn't you see those in the ship?
That's
Is that what? Does it look like the same things that were hanging from the?
That's what it looks like to you.
Yeah, that's what it
How-
looks. That's what they look like in the
And
hold
how
of the
many
ship.
are we seeing?
You only see 3 or 4, but you're only looking at a couple of different trees.
Okay, so it's not like there's a cluster of trees with them. It's like one tree over here has one, and then one tree over there
Yep.
has one, like
Yep.
really spread out. Okay.
Right. But remember, you're looking at the edge of the beginning of the jungle, so you don't know
Yeah.
behind that what's happening.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is this island
boy.
infested with blue goblins? I mean, they came from somewhere, right? But we didn't see that many in the
no.
temple.
Oh no. I told you we should have dealt with that freaking altar first.
You think that it's maybe making them?
No. But it's going to be a lot harder to deal with the demon dog if we have an army of blue goblins helping it.
I mean, do these things hatch from their eggs fully ready to fight and matured?
You have no idea, but with your perception checks, when you look down, when you look at it climbing down, it's pretty. It's obviously not like adult size. It's a small. It's not like a baby, okay, but it's like a very small runt little goblin. That's what they look like. But you could see as they're climbing down the tree, they start gnawing on the tree, and you can see all these little bite marks, and it's obvious that they are, excuse me, pretty ravenous right now.
Hey,
The local
Axley.
wildlife knows enough to run away, so they've encountered these things before.
Yeah. Do you think it's time to figure out how fast this thing can fly?
Well, I mean, I don't think a couple minutes is going to make a difference as to what's happening here, but we have to determine a course of action as to if we're going to leave these things to continue to hatch. I don't think we're going to be able to eradicate them. I think we have to maybe assume what's causing them and try to.
Well, at the
Like
very
the
least,
source.
we can tell the Hokka that, hey, their island might be infested with blue
Infested?
goblins and maybe they should leave. They
Well, maybe they
are
should go-
preparing their longships anyways.
Maybe they should scour the trees and pop every little egg they find.
Just burn the whole. Never mind. We're not going to burn it.
Burn it down.
Nope, I have issues with fire. All right, let's see if this thing can fly fast.
Well, we're here to check out its movement on land. So let's do that. Maybe go into the jungle and see how many of those eggs there are. And then
All right, fair enough. I don't like this
somehow-
idea, but
let's do a little recon so we know we have information to go back with.
Okay.
can't we do that while flying overhead? Well, no.
We
'cause
need to
then
test
we'll
out the
have to-
weapons too.
This thing has weapons. Oh yeah, it's got pincer fire.
Okay.
So let's
Alright.
try it.
So while you start walking onto the beach, and let's go back to Khonnos and Emmeryn real quick. So, what are you doing?
Yeah, we'll find the biggest gathering of Hokka either around our ship or around the hut we've been staying at, and
Okay.
he'll begin to address them and use the translator to communicate. And he'll say, "My friends, I am honored that you've chosen to."
So when you start talking and the translator starts translating out loud, you see that the crowd suddenly hushes and they get quiet, and the ones that aren't quiet, you see the other ones sort of giving them motions to make them get quiet, and then a couple of them whistle, and you see others sort of running over from the different areas. And so there's this really, really large gathering of Hokka in front of you.
My friends, I did not seek leadership in your tribe, but nevertheless, I am honored that you are placing your trust in me and my friends. I will honor that trust as best I can. I should tell you that our goal is to stop a person named Larolak, who is trying to build an army to attack this world from another. We've seen that he has been responsible for the damage done to your temple here on this island, and we believe he has caused several other damage to other places that we are trying to sail to stop and to stop his plans. We plan to sail to Calport as part of this, but first we need to travel to a place called the Dark Plateau to rescue the mother of our captain Emmeryn, who he is holding prisoner. And then we will return here to the temple to remove the creature that is there and cleanse it once and for all. From there, if you wish to stay here, you may do so. If you wish to follow us, we will gladly enjoy your company. If there are 2 or 3 of you that would I would not ask you to risk your lives on the endeavors that we are going to be undertaking, but if there are any who wish to volunteer, maybe 2 or 3 of you, we would gladly welcome your aid. And then we will take as many who wish to follow us to Calport when we do sail as wish to come with us. What say you?
So after the translator finishes, the Hokka all are looking around at each other and nodding and making noises of what you're perceiving as affirmation that they understand what's happening.
Okay.
One of them asks, when are you going to this dark place?
As soon as possible. We have a means to get there that is coming here. Should be here hopefully sometime in the next, hour or so. But from there we will travel. We plan to travel there immediately. I should also point out we think this will be a very dangerous expedition. So if you don't feel comfortable in your own strength, it would be safer for you to stay here.
There's a lot of murmuring after that. And then they basically say, the volunteers that will go with you to the dark place will meet you. We'll prepare and we will meet you on the beach.
Okay.
Are you taking your ship?
We're not taking our great ship. We're taking a smaller one that is specially designed to travel from one plateau to another. This will not be an ordinary sea voyage to be accomplished by a boat or with the winds or with swimming. This will be a different journey.
Okay. They all bow. Every single one of them.
He turns the bow as well.
There's about 100 Hokka there.
Okay.
Okay.
I do lean
yeah.
over to Khonnos. Do you think we're all gonna fit in the Curiosity?
I say back, no. That's why I only asked for 2 or 3.
Okay. You might have to throw Marcel in the cargo hold.
It's bigger on the inside. It's like a TARDIS. So Marcel and Axley, you are now crawling on the beach.
To be quite fair, I was waiting for the Curiosity to come in during that whole speech.
Oh, make
and
a
just,
dramatic
in.
entrance, yeah.
I was waiting for it.
Huge crab-like thing.
Yeah, that's a ride. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, they'll think we're gods if we do that.
So you're walking along the beach, and it's not the fastest, most graceful type of item that you've ever feel like you've seen move, but it's not horrible. It has a 30-foot walking speed. And remember, it's relatively large, so it has 4 legs on each side, so it moves quite a bit like a lobster does. But it's on the beach, and it's large and metal.
Okay.
We're not getting this past the tree line.
No, if we get up to it, maybe we can see how badly infested the trees are with those things.
Fair enough.
I mean, if there's a lot of them infested all the way to the a tree line, then that's a good indicator it goes much deeper.
I mean, it has 2 claws in the front. If you wanted to try to move away some foliage and walk in,
Yeah,
you could do so.
I need to practice with it anyway, so.
Yeah, I just don't know if you want to take the time, because if this thing is 30 feet, this island is pretty big. It took us an hour to
Yeah.
get to the one place.
The temple, yeah,
The
and that was
temple.
using the water elemental as kind of a taxi.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're using this and this has the same speed as a normal humanoid, then slow that down with having to cut its way through foliage. It's going to take a while. I would honestly suggest we try and see how fast it flies and just go there flying once we figure out what we can see from in terms of blue goblins.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explore the blue goblin thing and find out how big the infestation is.
We could go like for a bit, like go for a minute, walking into the dungeon
Into the dungeon.
into the tree line and see what we see, and then we just fly it out.
Yeah, that's the plan. I'm not planning on traveling through the jungle
For 2 hours. Yeah.
Okay. So like 10 minutes in, is that what you're something like
Yeah,
that?
like 5-10 minutes.
Maybe
in.
not even that. I mean, just
Okay.
just going in a little ways to just look at other trees beyond the first ones
Okay.
we can see.
Okay. So you move in, and it's pretty dense for the first couple 100 feet. But then there is a large clearing, and surrounding the clearing is this set of trees, and every single one of them has these things hanging from the top. And you can
Sorry, how
see
many?
several of the trees already have goblins climbing down. How many? Let me find out.
Yeah.
It looks like so you stay there for about 5 minutes to get a good idea of exactly how many that you see. And so I should have highlighted this in my notes.
These are not just goblins, but there's eggs hanging from the trees also that we're seeing.
Right.
Are these basically like what we saw on the pirate ship?
Yes. Oh, here we go. You count between 25 and 30 eggs amongst the trees. Some of them are hatching. Some of them are still growing.
Okay, are they in reach with the claws? Can I just start?
They're tall. They're
So
up,
out of
like
reach.
basically up tall coconut trees, probably 10, 15 feet up.
Okay.
Isn't
Well,
the curiosity 10 feet tall?
Yeah.
So could we?
The claws are at the bottom.
Oh.
all right. What we can do is we can put it in a fly mode and we can take off from here. And as we go up, just I want to at least take one back. I want to clip one of the eggs and take it back in the claw, just to show everybody.
Harvesting.
Yeah, to show everybody what's going on. It's like,
Oh boy.
yeah, let's clip one as we go up and out.
Okay. So it's going to be really hard to drive that, to fly it, and use the claws to gently clip one of those off without destroying it.
Well, isn't there a way to just put it in like a hover, like just go up and stop for be stationary while we grab one?
Maybe.
That's what I'd like to try.
Okay. So give me a I suppose give me a dexterity check.
Okay. 10 plus, if I get to add my bonus, it's plus 4 for 14.
Okay. So you get this egg off, and now it's kind of hanging from this claw by this nasty, goopy, snotty,
Yeah.
oozy
Okay.
material.
All right, let's head back.
You gonna fly back, or are you gonna walk?
Will it be faster to fly back if we just direct?
Well,
Yeah,
you don't
we'll go-
you don't know how fast it can fly because you've
No.
never
Then
done
let's find
that.
out.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, um. So, to find out, how are you gonna find that out?
Do
I mean,
we
are
even
you
know how
gonna
to
like
fly?
punch it and hit the accelerator? Are you gonna
Yeah.
try to gently
wait,
go up?
wait,
What are
wait,
you
wait,
Well,
what
We
are you
have-
trying
yeah,
to do?
gently,
That
but
tree.
We'll
we need to be
gently go-
clear first. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
up until we're out of the jungle, clear of the jungle.
Oh, you're
and
gonna
then
fly
start going
up,
forward.
not forward?
Yeah, because
No,
we're going up out of the clearing.
Ah, okay. So you're gonna go
Yeah.
up above the canopy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We're not that reckless.
I mean,
I'm not doing the
Are you
speeder
sure?
bike through the trees.
No.
Okay.
Don't Ferris Bueller this, please.
Okay, so you go up, and so here's the problem. It's hard to figure out how fast you're going up because you don't have a good gauge of that in your brain. How
No,
fast
but-
something goes after you reach the canopy and you go over the canopy. Now you're just in the sky.
Right.
But
So-
can't we still see the trees below us?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have a reference for the distance, so it's hard to figure out how fast you're going. And you start going pretty darn fast. So it only takes a couple of minutes and you are really far up.
I mean, we're not going. We said we'd go up above the
Yeah.
the tree line, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Slowly.
And once we
then
clear the
once-
trees, then start going forward.
then we go forward.
Oh, now you're going to go forward. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I thought you were just going to keep going up to try to see how
No.
fast it would go. Okay. All right.
I don't
So,
want to find out how space works.
well, I guess what I'm saying is you're not going to you don't hit the maximum speed before you get above the canopy. I mean, to
Yeah.
get to the goblin egg, you were already right just below the canopy. So, you're only going to
Yeah.
go up a few more feet to get
Mhm.
above that top canopy. So, you're
Yeah,
not
but
going
then
to
we're going
find the
forward.
maximum speed going
But
that
what
way.
about when the
When we
idea
go
is
forward, lateral
we
speed
go
is what I mean.
So when you
lateral
go
speed.
forward,
Yeah.
are you punching it? How are you doing it? You got to
No,
tell me
I mean,
how you're
no,
doing it.
You don't. Okay, I want to be a good 50 feet above the canopy in the vertical before we stop and start going forward. And then we
Okay.
start going forward. It's gradual. I want to start going forward gradually, and then faster and faster and faster, and then kind of be able to make a decision. Okay, this is a good speed to hold, or try to go faster. Like you don't just you don't just step on the gas all the way to the floor with
Yeah.
your car.
Yeah.
That's see how
It's
fast
like
this thing
it's like
goes.
learning. It's like I basically have a wide open parking lot. I want to just start
Right.
accelerating.
Well,
and then
So what I'm responding to is you said you wanted to know how fast it goes.
that's the goal. But I
So
don't mean by stepping on it max. I mean like
so
we've
if
got
you get to a decent cruise, okay, by the time, okay, so you can't figure out how fast going above the canopy because you're too close to it. So you go above it, so you don't hit maximum speed. When you go forward, you're
Yeah.
only a few hundred feet from the beach, so you don't hit maximum speed that way either.
But we're not going to the beach. We're going to
Yeah.
go to the Hokka village.
direct to the other side of the island where the
Okay.
ship and the village is.
I need Emmeryn and Khonnos to roll me a perception check.
God. Oh my god. No.
I can't wait till the moment I go, okay, punch it, and suddenly we're in Calport.
Yeah. Sonic boom.
11.
Oh, we get advantage on these. 12.
You both hear a rumbling.
What's that?
You hear a rumbling, and it sounds like it's coming from like the tops of the trees all around you. It's really hard to know like what direction it's coming from. And it's getting louder and louder, and then all of a sudden you see a big tin can with legs and claws fly through the air at a high rate of speed, and it just goes past the Hokka village.
Oh my god.
You passed it, you passed it.
Okay. Slow down.
This is
Um,
beautiful. I love
So
it.
in human terms, you probably hit 60 miles an hour, actually. Now
Okay.
you don't that's not a meaningful like terminology in
Sure.
this world, but that's about like you were going fast.
Yeah, that's faster than a horse can gallop, right?
Yeah.
So you were, So
Yeah,
we're-
you're going fast. And you
Okay.
passed. You overshot the Hokka village.
Okay. We'll slow it down and turn it back around, and then take it
Okay.
back, and we'll go land it on the beach.
Oh my god.
The beach by the ships.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Wait, don't they have like a? Oh wait, there was like 100 Hokka in the village. All right,
Yeah,
we'll go
it's
to the
100
beach.
Hokka crowd. Yeah, and they're all now like this, looking up. They're like, but they didn't do anything. They did not respond because Khonnos and Emmeryn just sort of went, ah, crap. You know?
No look of oh no, we're under attack. No, it's just oh
Yeah.
it's them.
So that's that.
I look at Khonnos, I'm like, well, I guess we should catch up.
Yep. All right. I'll just say, everyone, stay calm. That is the ship that will be taking us to the Dark Plateau. I'm sure it will be landing any moment. Why don't those who are coming with us follow us and start making our way after it if we can?
You can see it sort of turning around and coming back to the beach area. So go ahead.
Would enough time have passed between when they departed and when they're now returning? Would that have been enough time to do a short rest?
No, it does not take an hour. It's
Okay.
like really quick. Well, I mean, they're going to the beach, and the Hokka village is, remember, a mile from the beach.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, if you're going to wait for them to land and come get you, then yeah, there's probably enough time to do a short rest if you want to.
I should. I jumped them too.
So what do you want to do?
Yeah, I'm continuing to move towards the Curiosity.
Okay. All right. The Hokka are all following you.
All 100 of them?
Yep.
Great.
You get
I
out.
lean back over.
You get.
I lean back over to Khonnos and I say, I think we might have to put both Axley and Marcel in the cargo hold.
You get out to the beach, and the Curiosity has steam coming off of it.
Oh god. Do we see?
We'll open the hatch. I mean, we'll open the hatch. Yeah, open the hatch
Okay.
and
Okay.
pop out. And is the
Yeah,
is the gooey egg still in
the
claws?
the outside of the curiosity is like warm.
Does it look damaged?
Not really, but it's steaming and it's hot.
Okay.
There is an egg still on the claw, but
Cooked.
it's like yeah, it's like fried on. It's like stuck on to the claw.
Fried egg. So why do I think it's hot? Is that just from exerting energy in the course of being used? It gets
Yeah,
hot,
because remember to fly out of the ship originally when you stole the curiosity?
Yeah.
And you did steal it. When you stole it,
Acquired.
when you acquired it, when you turned it on, you heard the sound of like almost like a combustion, like fiery something, some source of energy.
Okay.
In the rear of the unit.
I go up to Axley and ask, "Well, what did you figure out?"
This island has a serious blue goblin infestation. See that egg on the claw? It's kind of a little fried right now, but there's we found a clearing that has we don't know how many, but many trees we saw had these eggs hanging from them, and we saw blue goblins hatching out of them.
I mean, there's more of them here.
Yeah, and who knows how many are hatching every minute, and what's the cause of it?
How far approximately from the village are they?
So, Marcel and Axley, as you are having this conversation with Emmeryn and Khonnos, you see all of the Hokka pouring out of the jungle, and they surround the curiosity. There's about 120 of them now.
I resist the urge to yell, "Bow to your new god."
Just barely.
Kneel before Zod.
Oh man. I'll explain to Axley and Marcel that these are the Hokka who will be following us when we depart the island. Many of them have chosen to follow us regardless of their elders and their council. And I've asked for a few of them to volunteer to come with us when we go to the Dark Plateau. Maybe the rest can deal with this blue goblin problem while we're out, and then we reunite when
That's not.
we reunite when
bad
we
idea.
return.
Yeah, from what we could tell, the ones that were being born right now don't seem as capable. They look smaller. They're hungry, probably ravenous. They're gonna eat this island out. I don't know, but maybe they'll. I'm sure they can deal with some baby blue goblins.
They hide really well because they're up in the very top of the trees, and the eggs that you can spot hanging, but the blue goblins, they're kind of hiding up there amidst the eggs and leaves.
All right. Then I will have the translator inform the Hokka about this discovery, and say, take what steps are necessary to defend your island, defend the village from this threat.
All the Hokka want to come with you.
There will not be enough room for all of you to come with us on the first journey we will make. Once we return from that, we will gladly take you all in our great ship, as many that want to come, or in your own vessels. But for now, we can only take a few, 2 or 3 at most, in this.
Doesn't that swim?
It does swim, yes, but the journey we will be going on is not a normal journey. It won't be like swimming through the ocean. It will be like magically appearing in a different world entirely, one that your boats or your best swimmers could not normally reach.
Can't we hold on?
We
It
don't.
got pretty hot.
We don't know. That's the problem. I mean, they're going to end up being more of a liability.
I just point at the cooked egg. Hot.
Yeah, this is going to be a dangerous journey. That's why I said, only maybe your 2 or 3 strongest should accompany us with this. Once the rest of you, I need the rest of you to stay here and to deal with the blue goblin problem. Once we return, we will take as many that want to come forward with us on our next journey.
You will have to choose who comes with you.
Okay.
Everyone volunteers.
Okay. Do I see like 2 or 3 that look especially strong or capable in this crowd?
Roll perception check.
Okay.
Oh, we need to be able to communicate too.
17.
Uh,
Do I see Jubo or Stead among the crowd?
yeah, Jubo and Stead are both in the crowd.
Okay.
Before Khonnos says anything, sorry, Emmeryn's gonna grab him by the elbow and be like, "Do we even want to involve them? Because honestly, this is something that is personal to me, and I even feel bad dragging all of you in on it. Like, this might be the end of the line. Like, this isn't going to be something that's easy. It's not going to be safe. I'd feel bad even bringing along 2 or 3 more people."
They may end up being more of a liability than a help because they don't know what we're going to do. They don't understand how we're going to do it. We can't really communicate with them easily. They're out of their element.
Yeah. The more that we talk about it, the more I feel like bringing up the gate spell for a minute, getting in and out, is almost better than trying to navigate through. You bring up the gate spell, I'll go in with the lock, the chime, grab my mom and get out.
But how are you getting out? I don't know if the gate will.
The gate
maybe
stays
a one-way
open for a
trip.
minute.
Lasts for a minute.
What if we get delayed, or if it's a one-way trip? I mean, you're gonna have to get to the cage, get it open. That's that. If you get trapped there, that's a
problem.
bad situation. I mean, I think we should try to get there, all of us, with as much capability as we can. I think we got a good plan. I think we should tell the Hokka to just wait, and we'll be back as soon as possible. Because I don't even think taking a couple is going to be helpful.
All right, and Emmeryn, I appreciate your concern and not wanting to risk other people's lives. I had the same fear with the coral in the temple, but my reasoning is that a few extra this is going to be dangerous, and a few extra people might make the difference between success and failure.
And we don't want to have to make it a double rescue operation if somehow you don't come through the portal and we don't know what happened.
We'd potentially have no way of getting you back.
Now we're all coming through anyway, and now in a different way.
I'll think to Emmeryn, my concern with the gate spell is if I open it, they all go through. They all follow us through. That's an even So that's why I want as many of them as possible to go deal with blue goblins.
Gotcha.
So, but if you want to just do it with the 4 of us, then I'll respect that.
I mean, I almost feel I don't know how useful they're going to be, and I don't feel like this is their fight.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try something. I will ask the translate. I'll have the translator say, I want Jubo and Stet to lead all of the Hokka back to where Marcel and Axley found the blue goblins. Deal with that threat. In doing that, they will prove to us that they are worthy to follow us. That's how they'll.
I have
That's
spoken.
so saith the master of the coral.
So you're telling Jubo and Stet, or you want Jubo and Stet to lead them back to that place?
I want Jubo and Stet to lead the Hokka to go and secure the island from the blue goblin threat that has been discovered. Take all of them and do whatever they need to do to protect their village and protect their island until we return. And this will be their proof of their willingness to follow us.
Okay. Okay. The translator tells Jubo and Stet what you have said.
Okay.
And they sort of announce it to the rest of the of the group. And they sort of, some of them get really excited and they sort of bow and they all start heading back to the village.
Okay. Well,
Nice.
how
Good
are we
job.
getting? Thank you. And then I'm going to. Do we want to take the curiosity through this, or do we want to just go there in the curiosity and then use the gate to return?
I think we should go through in the curiosity because it's our best chance at travel.
Okay.
If we have to travel a long distance. Does anyone need to get anything from the ship? Any items? Because this is time to load up on whatever items you want to bring that we might not have. Oh, and by the way, we have a stowaway aboard the Curiosity in the corner. It's that dark sword that wants to come along with us. I put it in the corner, so I advise just leaving it alone.
Okay, maybe we just leave it there when we find a way to leave it there when we're over there.
Yeah.
That's how we get. That's how we.
I
get
don't think
rid
it's
of it.
going to like
Nice.
that.
Well,
We'll see if we have an opportunity.
It did try to jump into your hand.
Yeah, it kind of tried to move towards me when I lifted up on the pillows.
okay. There was a neck. There was like a necklace with a lot of like large beads on it. Did we ever figure out what that
I've
did?
got that one. No, I have it on, but I don't know what it does yet.
Okay.
You have it on?
Yeah, I've had it. Yeah.
Okay. What else?
We have these candles. We don't
Yeah, the
know what
black
they do, but they
candles.
seem to be like a ritual. We should probably take those. Might as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the
take
all
the
the
rods.
rods. Yeah.
Take a bag of holding.
We also have the chime of opening with us as
Yeah,
we're
we'll
definitely going to need that one. Do we want to take the cube with us just in case?
Yeah, absolutely, because it may be a way to
Because
come
that
back.
might that might be our
Yeah. Was there a face on that corresponded to this plane?
Yeah, yeah. Everyone but the blue.
Okay. Then yes, we want to anything that will potentially let us get back here is what will be
I am
ran.
definitely taking the beans.
Okay.
It had dark plateau, green plateau, excuse me, dark plateau, green plateau, common plateau,
Yeah.
red plateau, the door, and it did have a blue plateau, but that's the one that's missing a piece
Yeah.
Yes.
on that cube. So, what are you taking with you?
I guess what are we not taking? Is there? That's probably an easier list.
Are we taking the? Sorry if someone already said this. The bowl with the water.
Yeah,
filter?
definitely.
I have the bowl.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have the bowl and the bag of beans.
What about like the candles with the
Yeah, we
symbol
should-
of the House of Adrum?
Yeah, we should take it.
Do we? Well, I mean, we could just store it in the.
I was gonna say we can just put it in the bag of holding, right?
We do have 2 bags of holding. Who had the bags of holding?
I actually had one of them.
Axley.
He had both of them.
Well, I mean, I don't need both of them.
You still have your
you-
magic beans.
Khonnos, why don't you take the second one just so we don't have everything in one.
Okay.
Fair.
On one person.
All right, I'll do that.
And yeah, we should probably put the magical items in the bag just in case.
Uh-huh.
Especially the cube, because if we get separated from the
The
curiosity, we'll need a backup way to go if not using the gate spell.
Yeah, then Axley should have the cube, since that way he'll have one of the means of coming back if the curiosity is lost or whatever, breaks down or whatever, and then I'll have the other.
Okay.
My thought was just we open the. It sounds like from the size of the curiosity, we could open the gate and then just drive it right
Pop it
through that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't suspect it would be able to open a gate that it can't get through.
Yeah, it's 20 feet. 20
Yeah.
feet.
Well,
is
he's
the
talking about
radius.
his gate. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we'll use the whatever. How we still haven't tested how it works, how the curiosity switches. So
So
we'll have to figure that out.
The curiosity just has 5 levers,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
they glow when you open that panel. They're lit up, and they have the symbols very much like that cube.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we still have to see what exactly it does. Like if it just pops out of existence or something.
I'll take the lightning javelin as well, unless anybody else wants it.
You will have to ask if we gave it to someone on the ship.
Yeah, you gave it to your
Oh.
chief harpoonist.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay.
That's
Never
right.
mind then. Never mind then.
They might need it to stave off blue goblins. To be fair,
Never mind that.
I don't think we'll let the ship overrun with blue goblins when we get back.
Definitely not.
Mm,
So we're taking the cube, the wind chime, the bag of beans, the necklace,
Candles.
the candles, the bowl.
Are we taking Tadius?
Yeah, he's in the rods. We're taking the rods.
Taking the rods.
Are we taking the sword?
I think it's coming
Yes.
along. I don't think
Oh,
we're
okay.
not.
Sword,
Yeah.
Sword already decided that one.
Can we put it in the bag of holding? Or is that a terrible idea?
We could try.
It might get mad. I think it's content where it is. I think we should just leave it. It
So-
obviously is making its will known of where it wants to be.
Well, so the way that you get something out of a bag of holding is you reach your hand in and say the name of the item, and it goes to your hand.
And we've been very careful to not touch that thing with our hand.
Yeah. So if you put it in the bag of holding, you're probably not getting it back out.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
We could try tossing it out of the curiosity, but I suspect it'll be right back inside once we switch.
I think it will.
Oh yeah, because that's what happened. Unless anyone knows Mage Hand.
Nope.
Nope.
All right. Well then, let's board up.
Are you taking provisions with you?
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have like create food and water, so as long as we have like a little bit left over, I can keep like it's not gonna be good food, but it's food.
Mhm. So we'll take like 2 or 3 days worth of food for 5 people since we're rescuing your mom.
Yep. Mhm.
That way we don't have to worry, and that'll fit in the bag of holding. To be fair, those are
Yeah.
basically the refrigerators.
That's neat.
A bag of holding has
It's
also,
not refrigerated, but
well, it has an amount of air in it, so it's actually, thinking about it, it will preserve food because the air
yeah,
will not cause it to go stale. On the other hand, it's gonna taste pretty,
stale.
tasteless, because
Yeah.
that doesn't, it also will, bread has active yeast in it, for example. If you rob that of oxygen, it's not gonna be right. So, but it's edible.
As an aside, one of the characters in the first game I ever DM'd had a whole mission about trying to figure out how to put extra air in a bag of holding once the 10 minutes of air had been extinguished. They made it their mission to figure out how to put air in a bag of holding that had run out of air.
Nice.
Did they ever figure it out?
I think they did eventually when they were like level 17.
Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. Apparently, I'm coffee tonight. Okay. So you've got all your provisions. You're taking all of your magical items. Anything
Wait,
else?
we said we were taking rations for 5 people.
Right.
Are we actually getting any carry-ons with the Hokka people, or did you get rid of all of them?
No, they all left.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, never mind. We're good.
I
Let's
hop
go.
in the curiosity.
When you start climbing in, you notice that sword dagger thing is on the main driver's chair again.
Yell back over, Axley, your sword is ready.
Hey, don't say it's mine.
It likes you, doesn't it?
I tried moving it last time.
Not it.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right.
I
All
got
right.
it.
I'll just take more precautions this time. I'll use. Can you help with your trident to like?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's just like from a distance, just kind of like scoop it, lift it, and
God.
put it somewhere.
Um.
I'll use I don't know, some kind of stick or pole or something,
Okay, so you pick it up with Bolum.
and put it back on the.
Yes.
pillows.
I use Bolum to attempt to pick it up.
Oh no.
Okay.
I've had Otto do this, shouldn't I?
Bolum says, "This isn't what I signed up for."
We'll don't worry. We're going where you want to go really soon. You're gonna get what you wanted.
Oh yeah, are you gonna cast my gate? You're gonna take us in the gate? All right, let's go. Let's go to the gate. Come on, gate, gate. Let's go. All right. All right, are you doing it? Come on.
Are we ready to start this thing up?
All right, let's go. Whatever that means.
So you're
we probably want to take it a little bit away from the beach so that there's no one around no Hokka around the ship when we activate it.
Yeah. Or we could like take it out to under the water and then submerge it.
Yeah.
Are you gonna tell anybody on your own crew?
Yeah,
That's a good idea. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean we went back to the ship to get our stuff, so.
Oh, did
Yeah,
you?
that's true, we did.
Oh, I guess you did. Yeah, you must have
Yeah.
because most of it was on the ship. Also, you left a live goblin in the Hokka village.
Fine. That's the Hokka's problem now.
Okay. So are you taking it and submerging it before you start fiddling with buttons, or what are you doing?
Do we want to do that, or just take it to a blank section of beach? I think we just go to a blank section of
Let's
beach.
go to a blank section of beach and see what happens.
I have a bad feeling this thing has like a finite amount of fuel.
For
as
flying,
well.
it
Oh, I'm
definitely
sure.
does.
Yeah, so like
Let's see what happens.
as close as we can, but as far as necessary.
Yeah, we'll just walk it down the beach a little ways.
Okay. And then what are you going to do?
So there's no one around. Well, then, well, from a stationary position, we'll look at the lever. So the lever just has the symbol on it, right?
So when you remove that panel, you see a little compartment, and there's 5 levers.
Mhm.
And one has a stylized bee and a wave symbol on it, and it's got a blue backlight. One has a sort of looks almost like a book or the side of a plank of wood, and a sun symbol, like an explosion type symbol, and it has an odd sort of letter that you associate with the common plateau. Then one has like a picture of a tree, and it has the letter symbol for the green plateau, and it's green backlit.
Mhm.
Then one has the symbol for the dark plateau, and it's gray backlit. And one has this sort of odd, almost plus sign with what looks like flames behind it, and it's backlit with red. And one has a picture of a door.
A picture of a door.
Yeah,
But-
so there's 6 little levers.
Huh.
The sides are the same as on that cube that you have, except on the cube they're picture puzzles.
Yeah.
Except
What
for
is
the
the door
door. The
associated
door
with?
is not picture puzzle, but everything else
I think
was.
the door was supposed to be our plane, like the normal.
No, you're on the common plateau, and there's a symbol for that.
Oh, okay.
So is there? They're all accounted for. Plus, there's the extra one of the door.
Right.
And the cube doesn't have the door.
The cube has the door.
It does.
But
does have the door.
but the cube where the door is, it's not a picture puzzle. It's just the door symbol. There's no because the cube is all picture puzzles, right? So you
Yeah.
have to move the things around and slide them.
I'm like standing behind Axley, like kind of over the chair, like looking, and I'm like, maybe the door is just like the go button. Like you press a plateau and then you
Yeah.
press the door and it creates a gate.
Oh, that makes sense. Sure.
Okay, well, all right. So
Sure.
before we go, I'm gonna scrape off the egg that's on the claw, smash it into the dirt and scrape it off. I don't want to be taking any blue goblin along for a ride.
Okay.
Okay, I guess so. I guess then we
Wipe the
you
dead
think
bugs off the windshield.
We throw the dark plateau lever, and if nothing happens, then the gate lever, the door lever. See what happens. All right.
Okay,
let's try it.
so
Throw the-
you press the lever with dark
dark
plateau on it.
Yeah.
So you do that, and the interior lights turn off.
Mhm.
The exterior light turns on. All of the portholes close. The metal panels close, except for the one front one. So there's one single small circular portal in the front, a porthole in the front that you can see.
Okay.
And everything goes dark. You no longer see the beach. You don't see a jungle. You feel like you're falling. You know that feeling you get when you're driving fast and then you go down a hill and it's like
Yeah.
your stomach
Mhm.
falls out, right?
Stomach. Yeah.
You
mhm.
feel that, but it's consistent. So
Ugh.
you feel like you're falling down a bottomless pit. And even though there's a light, the exterior light is on, you see nothing. It's like being in the middle of the night with nothing around you and you're shining a flashlight and light travels as far as it can, but it doesn't shine on anything. It's just emptiness.
Okay.
And that, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna I'll quick cast detect magic and see if I can pick up anything magical coming from outside of the curiosity.
I'm thinking this is just how it travels through.
Everything
It's between.
everything is magical. Like everything that you see around you is just inundated with magic because the ship that you're in is magic.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna check the rod for the direction rod and see if it's pointing a specific what it's doing.
Nice.
We'll watch that.
It's still doing the smoky grayish and it's not pulling you in any particular direction at the moment.
Okay. I'll just have it out and keep an eye on it
Okay.
as an indicator. Yeah, my guess is we're between planes. This is how it travels between.
Okay.
Let's give it some time. Let's wait and see what happens.
Okay. An hour passes.
An hour?
Yeah.
And it's
So
still
this
not
is what
going.
happened after we pressed the plateau and then the gate switch, right?
You didn't press the door button.
We didn't press the door. We
You
just
just
hit
pressed
the
the
dark.
plateau button.
Well, press the gate
Okay.
button.
When
Yeah,
you look,
I don't think we're gonna wait an hour.
when you look, you're not going to wait an hour. Well,
that's an excessive amount of time.
Okay. So
I mean,
how
I
long?
think
How long would you wait before you press that door button?
5 to 10 minutes at the most. Because I would
Okay.
imagine something pretty immediate would happen. I don't think it would take an hour to travel between.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So within a matter of minutes, if nothing happens, then I think we should try it.
Yeah.
We should try the door button.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like the logical next step.
Okay.
During those five minutes or so, do we still have that falling sensation the whole time?
Yep. Entire time.
Oh, okay.
What happens while we're falling if we engage the fly mechanism?
Are you saying you want to
Well,
try
I mean,
that?
I don't want to try that because there's nothing outside. I think that it.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should.
Bad
I think we should,
idea.
yeah.
Got it.
You can try whatever you want to try.
Yeah, well, this is Marcel talking out loud and everyone else being no bad, no touchy.
Yeah. So after a few minutes, we'll do the door one and see what happens.
Okay. Since Nina walked away, I'm gonna. Oh, here she comes back now. I was gonna say let's take a 5-minute break.
Sorry, my dog was sobbing.
Oh, it's fine.
No.
Okay, so as you press the door, you go to press it in.
Mhm.
You see that it has numbers above it,
Okay.
and you're pressing, and as you press, one of the numbers stops, and then you feel yourself stop falling down.
Okay. Does anything change outside the window?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. The light is now shining out. You now feel yourself floating as if on water. and the light is
Weird.
shining out in a foggy, very dark area, and you can see what looks like buildings off in the distance amidst the foggy area.
Okay, I'll
And
look at the rod.
you're in
What
water.
is it? Is the rod showing?
You're looking at it or you're holding it. So in order for it to,
yeah.
so if you grab the rod, it
Uh-huh.
tries to pull you in the direction of those buildings.
Okay. Hey, the rod's now tugging towards those buildings. I think we made it.
All right. Good job.
Okay, I'm just curious. Can you describe the numbers? Like, what were the numbers showing? Like, what kind of a number that was counting down
So
when we pushed it?
there was no, there wasn't anything on there until you went to press it. And when your skin touched it to press it in, then there were sets of 4 numbers in on the sort of on the upper part of the button.
Like, are those settable numbers, or I mean, can I memorize what the number was when?
Yeah, the number is still showing on it.
Is it one of those sets of numbers that's been in that on that text of prophecy we've been seeing on these temple walls?
Let's find
does
out.
Does it correspond with any of those?
It is the number.
I mean, it's a long number. It's not like it just says 5.
No, it's 4 digits.
4 digits. Okay.
Yeah. 1569.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on that. And if we start moving forward, let's see if the number changes.
Well, should we try to pilot towards land?
Yeah, let's start moving.
Okay. When you go to cause it to go forward, nothing happens.
Out of juice already.
But you know that when you were every other time you were driving it, the panel with those buttons and levers in it was closed.
Oh, like we have to close the okay.
Oh, should we like flip the black one down, the dark plateau down, then like basically turn that off and then close it? We're here.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll try to just close the panel and see. Maybe everything resets when you close the panel.
So you're going to close the panel, or are you going to move the lever?
I think I'm going to try to close the panel first and see if anything resets.
I mean, when you close the panel, you don't really notice any.
Okay. Does anything change with the Curiosity's configuration or ability to move?
If you close the panel and try to drive forward, it will push you forward.
Okay. Then we'll go forward. We'll start going the direction that the rod is pointing.
Okay.
Welcome to the Black Plateau, everybody. The Dark Plateau. I don't know what we're going to find here. The weather outside is a balmy
darkness.
It's a balmy darkness.
We're
0
London.
dark 30.
Yeah. I was looking to see if I had a description I could read to you.
I'm so mad because I can't find my paragraph of numbers, and I know this corresponds with something.
It does. I already looked it up.
Did you? Okay, that's good.
Through the dirt, through the stone, 1569.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And the line that comes after it is through the still, through the gale. But the numbers come after the text always. So through the dirt, through the stone is 1569.
But also those numbers repeat.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's somewhere else too.
I haven't found the second appearance of it.
I literally lost it today. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
I found it. Chamber of Eyes.
Eyes. Yeah.
Fun.
Mhm.
I mean,
I mean,
it
that
could
makes
be.
sense.
Yeah, because the
That-
eyes, the lenses.
That office laboratory whatever is probably the Chamber of Eyes.
Yeah, it can see through all the lenses, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, and remember, and it may be the curiosity. We stole the curiosity from them, so maybe it has presets in all the planes. Maybe it goes to that specific location in each plane when you throw the lever.
That would be
Yeah.
useful.
The very fast way of getting to all these places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Let's just hope it doesn't show 6174 before we're ready then.
Because maybe that's what that sensation of falling is. Because that sensation of falling is it's moving somewhere in time and space, right? It's like
Probably.
it's not stationarily just going to the plane from where we were. It feels
I'm
like
a
it's somehow.
storm sorcerer. I have no idea how
Yeah.
this works.
Me either. We're making it up as we go.
It's true.
Sounds good.
Okay, so you start approaching this shoreline, and you see that you're approaching a relatively largish city. It is gray and dim. There is very little light. There's fog shrouding the majority of the different areas that you can even see. The tops of the buildings that peek out from the low-lying fog look dingy and gray and a little bit dilapidated. Now, you're still relatively far away, but you do see some docks. You see a few ships in the docks. But even the lamps and lanterns that are on those ships, the light doesn't seem to penetrate very far. It's like in a perpetual twilight.
Well, this is a cherry place.
You do see people moving around the docks, and you see. Sorry, I'm just looking for a map that I can reference here. Everything you see is just enveloped in a dullness. There's no bright color. Even when you look around, if you were to turn the lights on inside the Curiosity and look at your own clothing and your own different items and things that you're wearing, there is a paleness to it all. There is a muted, dull shadowing covering all of it. You don't feel differently, although you notice that Axley has a little bit of a beard growing. And Khonnos' hair is a little longer than it was before. And Marcel, the tips of Marcel's fur has a little sort of silvery coloration, a dull gray silvery coloration to it a little bit. But Emmeryn doesn't look changed at all.
I was gonna say, when I looked at my mother, did she look like this? Like dull and like...
She looked pale and sick.
Okay.
Do I feel any different, or do I just look different?
You don't feel any differently.
Okay.
Well, let's get a move on. I don't want to stay for dinner. I bet their food is as bland as their decoration. Let's just fly over the city. I think we should just head straight in the direction that the rod's pointing.
Did Emmeryn and Khonnos point out how loud this thing was when we flew over Hokka, the Hokka village?
I would point that out. Yeah, this thing does make a lot of noise when it's flying, just so you know.
Yeah, but they won't be able to catch us. So here's what we'll do. Let's fly over the city at an oblique angle from the direction. Let's go to like a 45-degree angle to the direction that the thing's pointing. So if anyone follows us, they'll go the wrong direction. And then we'll just write our course after we clear all the buildings.
What if it's inside the city?
Well, then we have no choice, but we'll have to stop once we're above it, adjust, and go right to it.
I feel like, especially considering who we stole this from, it's a bad idea to make everyone see where we are.
But we can't crawl through the middle of the city.
No, I was thinking finding a place to dock it and go on foot.
I was gonna say, can we kind of like, is this on like an island or is it just like there on like a mass of land?
You see a humongous city. For you, for all of you, basically, you've never seen a city this big.
Wow. I mean, we'll get lost in that. I mean, I guess what we can do, we can move laterally and see if the line moves to see maybe how far away from the endpoint we are. I mean, if we move laterally a good distance and it doesn't even move, that means it's a long ways beyond the city, as opposed to.
So you mean like following the coast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, stay off
in
the coast
direction
of the
that
city.
it's pointing.
You move perpendicular to which direction it's pointing.
Okay.
You take a line of bearing and then you move a good distance, take another line of bearing and see if it shifts.
Also, is it just pointing like straight ahead, or is it pointing like straight and down, or straight and up, or
It's
just straight?
Pointing toward the city.
Okay. So we could also submerge and see how far down and see if it goes up and see if we're underneath the city. Because the thing, I know we established that the ladder is more of like a gate to like the Dark Plateau, but the ladder in Darkport was the only like solid information we got, really.
Yeah, I mean,
from that goblin.
This sounds like Darkport, doesn't it? It looks like a Darkport.
It does sound like Darkport.
It is a port, and it's in the Dark Plateau. Therefore, Darkport. Perfectly reasonable.
Thank goodness they name things literally. That really helps.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you.
Buildings. So good.
I'm gonna show you a map. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
I like maps.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Okay.
That's
Now
a
you
big city,
see-
yes.
You see down here at the bottom, there's a big wall there
Yeah.
near the docks.
Yeah.
You are outside of those walls.
Okay. That's perfect. 'Cause
So-
we'll move sideways outside the wall and see if the bearing changes.
So if you look here, see the wall there?
Yeah.
This is
And
gonna
then
be more
There's
interesting.
all the docks. See the docks?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're pretty far out. And when you look to the right and the left, all you see is city and walls. That's how big this place is.
How tall do the buildings appear?
Some of them are quite tall, like, I mean, 3 or 4 floors, 3 or 4 stories, nothing like a high rise or anything like that.
I mean, we know nothing about if the people here are hostile. Will they let us go amongst them as if we belong? Will they attack us on sight? We know nothing about what the people are like in this place. Are we easily recognizable as outsiders?
As I'm like looking at myself, I'm gonna say, I think you three might. I think I'm gonna stand out like a sore thumb.
Why?
You all,
Why do
like,
you look different?
I don't know. You all changed in some way, like either your hair or your beard or like hair color. I don't think anything about me changed.
Is this a good look for me?
Yes, Axley. It's fine.
Actually, does your clan normally grow beards?
Probably not. I mean, halflings are probably pretty clean shaven. I think, like childlike chins and.
Yeah, so he looks really weird to you right now. He's got like, some beard on him.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to find out how far this place is. How close are we to it? So I think we should try that plan, just moving sideways and see if the line of bearing changes dramatically to give us an idea of how close we are to the termination point.
Okay, so let me...
We'll just move around outside the wall, staying out in the water.
It seems to be pointing you to the the western portion of the city,
but still in the city.
in the city.
So maybe rather than go into the city directly and over it, we should just go around the side until we get close enough,
Yeah,
and then
kinda
find a
like-
place to put down and hide the curiosity.
Yeah, that sounds good. So we basically go west along the wall until we reach land, and then
Okay.
find a place to hide.
How close do you get to the wall?
Keep it in
Well,
sight.
when? What do you mean when we're traveling?
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of need to know where it is to know where it's a point of reference, but we want to stay a ways away from it.
Yeah, I'd say maybe 100 feet.
Oh, 100 feet. Okay. Roll me perception checks.
18 plus
8.
let's see,
No one.
4, so
God
22.
damn it! It stopped rolling because it was a perception. 11.
So I got 11, and what did Emmeryn get?
8.
Okay, and Khonnos and Axley both got over 20.
Yeah.
Khonnos and Axley, you notice that this wall has the look of skin stretched tight over rock-like flesh, decorated with carvings of limbs and faces.
Oh, that's don't get any closer to that. That's gross.
Unlike normal carvings, the limbs twitch and the faces cackle and howl.
Oh,
Oh God.
I think we've answered the question of how we're going to be treated if we're seen here.
Well, they obviously, this place knows how to party, obviously.
Oh no.
Yeah, being out and exposed on foot is going to be a very dangerous
Let's go to
expedition.
Dark Plain Plateau. It's a place called Darkport. We'll have a lot of fun.
Mhm.
What is your mom doing? Okay, let's just keep
Yeah.
going.
I mean, I don't think she came here on a whim.
Neither did we, to be fair. Still don't like this place.
So as you're traveling, you see that there are some gaps in the wall. By the way, as you're traveling, the faces in the wall change, and some of them change to look like the faces of demons, and some of them change to look like the faces of animals. And either way, they're always sort of tracking you. They're sort of they sort of come out of they sort of form out of the skin into the shape of this face, and then they sort of cackle at you. But it's not making noise. It's just making that
Visual.
And then they sort of sink back in, and then a few minutes later something will come out of a different piece, and it's sort of tracking you and almost like it's watching what you're doing. But when you see the areas where there's breaks in the walls, there are different gates there with openings, and each gate has an enormous sculpture that resembles a skull with jaws agape. And you see
Nice.
that near the gates there are some figures there, obviously standing watch.
Do they seem like they've... Well, I can't really see that much at this distance.
Yeah, you don't see anything. In fact, you and Emmeryn, neither one of you have noticed the faces in the walls, unless Khonnos and Axley pointed out to you.
I'm
Yeah, we'll
okay
definitely
with
point
this.
out what we're seeing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not okay
so-
with that.
Yeah, nice place, cheery, very welcoming. I'd like to have a word with their city council.
I'd rather not talk with them at all, if possible.
Yeah, I want to avoid a welcoming committee at this point.
Yeah, so we'll just keep traveling around until we get to a point where the pointer, points directly into the city at the closest point.
Well, I mean, so there is a gate that is a more westward gate that's still in the water. I mean, I guess it depends. Do you want to go on land? Because you can actually
Well,
go on land.
I mean, we're gonna have to set this thing down somewhere and hide it. So we need to find a good hiding spot. I mean, we can travel through the water pretty easily. So as long as we can like maybe hide it on a little rocky island or something.
Outside the city walls, once we get to the land part, is there like trees or like an area where we could hide it in terms of like cover?
Yeah, so when you get over to the edge there near the side of the wall where the land is, you see that the outside of the wall is on the land side on the landward sides outside of the city is a morass of decaying vegetation and marshland.
But is
Nice.
it enough vegetation to cover a 10-foot vehicle?
So you would have to go on there and try to. I mean, the thing is, it's very low lying. It's marshland, so there's not a
Mhm.
ton of. There are some sort of what you might call marsh grasses sticking out of the ground, but they're not super tall.
Are there any structures, tall structures that
Not outside the city walls.
Okay, but marshland means there's a lot of water with the grass. Is it possible we could like find an area where it would lie in the water area so the grass would mostly cover it?
Possibly.
Do we want to do that? So I mean, the thing is also all of us have equal swim speed to walk speed.
yeah.
So my question is, do we want to try sneaking in through one of the water gates and then sneak up on the ports? Or do we just want to waltz right in through one of the gates? Because outside we're not going to be able to sneak at all. We're just going to have to walk right up to the gate and see what happens.
Yeah, and then we don't want to leave the curiosity in a vulnerable place where it can be found. So it'd probably be easier to leave it on a little island or something because we can, like you said, we can all get through the water pretty quickly.
And we know that this thing can like compact itself down pretty well so that it just looks like a box, like a crate. Because that's how you found it to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have like the legs and the stuff outside.
No, it looks like a big barrel.
Yeah, so we don't have to really worry about it getting that much attention.
But these might be the people that created this thing is the issue.
Yeah,
They
but
might
if we
know
leave
what
it on
it
an
is.
island 100 feet out.
I guess that's.
We still have
fair.
to go on foot potentially through the city.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody
That's
to avoid
my
that.
question. So my other question is, should we leave it on an island, swim through one of the water gates? Because we can do that underwater and hopefully nobody sees us.
And then go drenched with water into the city.
Yeah.
How big was the inside of the lab that we saw?
It wasn't huge.
Would the curiosity fit inside of it?
Inside of the
lab.
tower building where Emmeryn's mom is.
Might break some things.
I don't think the door's wide enough.
The door I could create would be.
Do we really want to use Gatespell right now? I think like that's a bad idea.
No, we're pretty
that's
close.
a really bad idea.
Yeah, we're really close.
Come on,
Okay,
it's a city. How bad
yeah.
can it be? Just put Emmeryn, put your cloak up and your hood up, and we'll be drenched. So what?
Yeah, I think we have to stash the curiosity and go on foot. I think that's the only way we're going to get there most directly, have the best chance of finding it.
As the person who's designed their clothing thinking of swimming and then getting out of the water. We'll be drenched. It's fine. Then you just shake off all the water.
We all have gust of wind, right?
I think so.
Do we actually?
I
don't.
have gust of wind.
I don't.
Yeah.
I have it. Okay.
Oh wait, no, I don't.
Oh,
Oh wait, I do have gust of wind. Yes, I was thinking of the cantrip version. I don't think we want to use gust of wind to dry us off though.
Big super powered hair dryer.
Yeah. Just stand in front of me.
I mean, you guys all don't have to get wet. I could let you guys all off on the shore and then move it out and then stash it and then swim back. And then I'm the only one wet.
Yeah, but that means that
We have to
you're
go through the
passing the
lake
water
gate.
gates twice with a 10-foot vehicle.
oh. Do you think we could just get the curiosity in there and then stash it? Can we get it under the gate?
Well, but where are we going to stash? Then they're closer to where everyone can see it.
Maybe we could put it set down on top of a building.
On top of the building.
Yeah, but then everyone knows where we are. We're trying to be
Valid.
stealthy.
It's loud.
If we go submarine mode underneath the water and through the gates, we'd have to turn off the lights, which means whoever's driving this thing needs to have dark vision because they will not be able to see otherwise.
Well, you can't see lights very far in this place. Lights doesn't go very far.
Yeah, but if they've got people on the gates, they're gonna see a light under the water.
Okay, so
But how far a swim is it from outside the gate through to the shore?
first of all, why don't we take the curiosity down just to see what's underneath the gate to make sure we can actually get through?
Okay, sure.
Why don't we just go see what's down there so that if it's a concrete wall that none of us are going to be able to break through?
Ships have to be able to pass.
I mean, what if we go underwater all the way up to underneath one of the main docks and then just like bring it up underneath the dock?
Yeah, that was my other suggestion, but we'd have to make sure we don't have the lights on.
Right.
Well, under the water, I don't think it's not going to show.
It depends on how deep it is. You're going to be able to see it anyway, especially given how dark it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if we have the lights off, that would pretty much deal with
Make us invisible, yeah. That's why I'm like, does anyone have dark vision? Night vision? Whatever?
I do.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
So Khonnos would have to navigate it because he'd be able to see if the lights are off.
Okay.
Because while we tiny ass creatures could pass down underneath the water of the gate, because I'm assuming it's going to be at least deep enough for a ship to pass, they may still have an underwater gate that might prevent the curiosity from crossing. So that's why we need someone who can see without having the lights on so that we don't, ram the curiosity into an underwater gate.
Fair.
Okay.
I may be overthinking it, but that's how I design a gate, a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Like if I'm gonna bother putting up that wall, I'd make sure that the gaps in it are protected.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good with it.
So we approach the westernmost gap in the wall in the water.
In the water. Okay.
But
Because
we're
the other thing,
submerged as far as we can go.
the other thing you didn't do was go around the city and see if there were landside gates.
Oh, we're assuming there's landside gates. The question is, do we want to go through a landside gate and be seen?
Okay.
And have to deal with possible gatekeepers and.
So you're going to go through the
passengers.
westernmost waterside gate.
Yeah.
You're going to try to go as deep as you can, or is that what your plan is?
Basically follow the floor of this and see if we can cross without being spotted. So turning off the outside lights of the, so it can't be seen from above.
Okay. And Khonnos is going to use his dark vision to try to guide you to a relatively emptier dock.
Yeah.
And pilot us through without hitting anything.
Okay. Well, Axley is going to have to drive because he's the only one that knows how to pilot the thing.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to have to
give me cues and tell me.
Yeah, you're going to have to tell him. And so when you park it, are you going to like have it come up out of the water, or what's your plan there?
We're gonna have to. I don't think you can open it underwater.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Well,
we'd flood it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you
I
can.
mean, we can, yeah, but I don't think we want
We
to.
don't want to now.
Nah.
But
Okay.
bring it up just enough so that it surfaces underneath one of the docks that
Okay.
has less activity on it.
Okay. So what I will need from Khonnos is a wisdom survival check.
Boy. Okay. I'm going to use my ghostly gaze to try to assist with this. So basically, it lets me see through solid objects with dark vision to a range of 30 feet.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that just makes things outside a little easier to see.
Okay.
Like I'm literally like viewing through the walls of the
Mhm.
things. Okay,
So roll that check with advantage then.
Thank you. Okay. 14.
Okay. And Axley, I need a charisma check from you.
Okay.
With proficiency.
Oops. With efficiency. Okay. That's a 4 on that one. And a 15. 15 plus my bonus of 4 is 19.
Okay. So, well, that was not with advantage, but with your proficiency. So, what was your first roll? Was a 4?
A 4, yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Plus your proficiency at 8th level is, what is that, a plus 4?
Proficiency for just
Yeah.
the stat bonus, you mean?
Proficiency is a 3.
Plus
at
3.
eight.
Is it?
I mean,
Oh,
what
it's plus 3.
this isn't a saving throw. What is it?
No. It's just a charisma ability check. So you add your modifier plus your proficiency.
Oh, okay. So my modifier is plus 4, and
Okay.
then my proficiency is plus 3.
Plus 3. Okay, so 7 plus 4 is 11. Okay, so you successfully, with Khonnos telling you where to go, get the curiosity to near a dock. But the way the docks are structured, you cannot go under a dock, so you're going to have to park either next to it or on the end of one of the docks.
Okay. Next to it's probably good if we can just find a spot that is not very visible.
It's not that big, so you can fit it almost anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just have to like maybe hide it amongst the rocks.
Or do we see anything? Or is there anything outside we could see that we could
Any
cover it up with?
any sewer pipes or anything coming
Parts.
out from the city?
That's a good idea.
No, there is a
Great.
bridge that goes to one of the islands if you wanted to try to like park it under the bridge maybe so it
just
wouldn't
find
get
it.
That's a
seen.
good idea. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
works.
So you're not really parking it at the docks then. You're kind of on the shore under the bridge. Okay.
We don't really need a dock. We just need a place to stash the
Yeah.
vehicle.
Okay. All right. So what are you taking with you and is anybody staying behind?
Otto?
I mean,
Or leave Otto somewhere near.
How far can you communicate to Otto? Like if we leave him with the
Only-
curiosity, can he warn us if something comes to molest it?
only while we're within 100 feet.
Yeah, I feel like Otto would be more useful with us for
Yeah,
scouting purposes.
Mhm.
Plus, are we coming back for this?
Yeah.
Because if we're using the gate spell
This is
to
our
get
way out.
No,
Yeah.
we're not using the gate spell unless it's an emergency, in
Yeah.
which case we lose the
unless it's an
curiosity.
emergency. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that will help us go to other gates potentially as well.
Right.
That
Wait,
we're
yeah.
wanting to. So.
Yeah.
But for now, our plan is to find your mother, bring her back here, and then take the curiosity back.
Okay.
Yeah, if we're using the gate spell, it's because things have gone,
Really south.
super haywire. Yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah.
When we need a quick way out.
That's our eject button.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am just taking what's on me, and I'm gonna have the location rod thing.
Okay.
I'm gonna take that.
Well,
I-
that is attuned to Axley,
Oh, it is. Okay.
so
It
he is
is.
the
Never
only
mind.
one
Actually has it.
that feels it.
So I'm gonna carry the bag of beans. I have the bowl with me, and a cat who's biting my hand.
That's my
Actually, I
favorite
think
object.
that's most of what I had. Yeah, just the bag of beans, and that. Could you stop it? And a bowl of water.
Okay.
of the magical items that we had. Unless you guys want me to take the red tapered candles. We still don't know what those do, though.
I mean, we'll take them just in the bag of holding. I'm not going to leave anything behind other than that sword.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking all my normal equipment.
Wasn't one of the rods one that said stop on it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was thinking about that.
I'm gonna take that one.
And there's something that is about dark. What is it? Where is it? Dark and quiet is what the other one
Dark
says.
and quiet. Yeah, someone else holds onto that one.
Yeah, we're going
I
to take
can
them
hold
all.
on to that one because although I did get rid of my -1 dexterity stat, I'm still not very stealthy. So maybe that might be helpful for me.
Okay, so you carry the dark and quiet. I'll carry the stop one. Was it stop? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dark and
Yeah.
quiet. Stop. Need advice.
Okay, so
and
I'll carry
lost
the
and found.
stop one. Basically, so we have them somewhere where we can easily grab them, because if it's in the bag of holding, it's ow! I'm not playing with you, cat. I'm moving my hands, and he's just trying to paw and grab and bite. All right, I think that's it.
Okay. All right.
Actually, you said you had the bead necklace on you, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so are you being stealthy, or what's your plan here?
Yes.
I think we'd like to try to be stealthy.
Yes.
Okay,
Please.
so I will need
It
a
does not
stealth.
look obvious if we fail.
I'll need a stealth
Looks
check
suspicious.
from all of you.
Okay.
Come on, ice cream dice. Don't
God
fail.
damn.
Me now.
Yeah.
7.
I rolled a natural 20 and a 3.
Oh.
So 3.
Someone is being overly cautious. Meanwhile, I'm over here like,
Yeah.
holy shit, this place is crazy. I got
And
a
that's the
7.
problem. That's the problem with stealth is you're only as strong as your
8,
non-stealthiest
sorry.
person.
Loudest person.
Yeah.
So you all try to be stealthy. When you get out of sort of where the curiosity is, and you're now on one of the little city streets, you see there are some people, walking to and fro and doing different things. And anyone who looks at you glances away quickly and goes about their own business. And you walk about maybe 100 yards down the street, and the next thing you know, there are 3 humanoids coming towards you wearing gray and black armor and cloaks. They're very pale-faced. They have a crest on their shoulder, and they walk right up to you. One of them has a ledger book under his arm, and he walks up to you, and let's see, which one does he walk up to? So 1 is Khonnos, 2 is Marcel, 3 is Emmeryn, and 4 is Axley. 4. They walk right up to Axley. One of them puts his hand out and he says, "Registration fee."
Do you know who you're talking to?
Oh God.
Registration fee. I don't pay a registration fee.
Oh no. Oh no.
Khonnos, Marcel, Emmeryn, please give me a perception check.
Oh no.
Okay.
12.
What is with my rolls today? A 10.
21.
No, I'm not doing so great either.
What did Khonnos get?
21.
Khonnos, you notice when these people walk up to you and ask for the registration fee, all the other sort of commoners that are going about their business in the street, they sort of duck away. If they've got a hat on, they sort of put their hand and they go, and they don't want to see this at all. One of the people in the group steps up to Axley and bends down, gets right nose to nose with him, and he says, "Look, you must be new here. You're going to pay the registration fee, or we're going to have to take you in, and I don't think you want us to take you in. Right? Very well, then." And he puts his hand out. So now you have 2 hands in front of you.
So
What's the
how
fee?
much is the fee?
50 gold.
Jesus, we don't
For the
have
whole
that.
group?
Keep talking and the fee will go up.
Obviously, you didn't hear me the first time.
Oh God.
Let me introduce myself.
Please
My name
stop.
is Blacksley Chillingquist of the
Oh.
Inquisitors Guild, and I
Oh.
don't pay a registration fee, and I'm going to cast suggestion.
All right.
Oh,
I'm going to cast
dear.
suggestion on him, saying, I don't need to pay the registration fee.
Oh, you and your Jedi mind tricks. All right, let me see. Suggestion.
It's like I could have sworn we had money, but I have.
No, I haven't. We have 75 gold, but this is like the ship money, so I don't even know if
Yeah.
I have this on me.
We don't even know if, our gold looks different than their gold. We're all tarnished here.
Yeah. We have 75 gold pieces that we found like on the ship, and the 11 amethyst gems, which I didn't grab. I know I didn't grab those because we never sold them because we were trying to sell the
Yeah.
black powder and it never happened.
And that backfired.
That backfired so hardcore. Except
So
this
how
is
much of
that's
the
what got us
75
here.
So how much of the 75 gold has gone into paying our people?
I think most of it.
Like decently.
I think
I
we
think we
determined
would've
that
been
the
able
fee that they get is 30, it's like 32 gold a week or something to pay everybody. We figured that out. It's in my notes somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhere. All my notes are scattered.
So what's your suggestion? What are you suggesting to them?
That once they hear that I'm of this dangerous Inquisitors Guild that now they know is not to be messed with, they need to move along quickly and not charge us the registration fee.
Okay, so move along quickly without getting paid. Got it.
Yep.
All right. And they're going to make a wisdom save, right? What's your spell save DC now?
Yeah. So it's just the lead guy, right? The boss guy who's.
So are you doing this to the first person who put their hand out, or the second guy who told you that?
Yeah, the guy who looks like he's in charge, the one who addressed me.
The second one?
Yeah. So
Okay.
spell save DC is 15.
All right. All right. I hate to tell you this, but I rolled an 18.
Okay.
This is not going well.
Can I? I can't use any of my.
Roll me a
abilities, can I?
roll me a persuasion check.
Persuasion. Okay, it's a +8, so that's got that going for me. 6 + 8, so 14 total. Can I use luck to re-roll it?
No. He says let me give you some advice. When the Deathless Watch comes and asks you for a fee, you pay the fee. We'll be watching you.
Okay.
And they turn and they walk away.
I'll take it. I'll turn to my comrades and say, sorry guys, just improvising here. I figure that's how you fit into this place. Gotta be an a-hole.
I look around and notice that everybody else is gone.
Yeah, they are all of the commoners, no one. The shops that looked open, they now have their doors shut. No lights are on in any window. Everything is, nothing. No activity whatsoever.
Let's go. Let's get going.
So you are in the western part of the city, but you're in the southern portion, and you need to get to the northern portion.
Yeah. Are the streets straight lines?
No.
No, no, it's a maze.
No,
Yeah,
they are
Okay.
not straight lines. So, I don't know how well you can see this. Let me see if I can. Maps. Okay. Actually, I can show it to you here. See this right here above my finger? That's
Yeah.
a bridge.
That's the bridge.
That's the
Okay.
bridge
Park.
that you're under. So you just
Uh-huh.
walked up this street.
Okay.
This street, see how straggly the
Yeah.
streets are, right?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
straggly those streets are. That bridge is leading to the district that you want to be in.
Okay.
So that the rod is telling you to just go directly north,
Okay.
but of course the streets don't go directly north.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best thing to do is just every time we get to an intersection, take a reading and then take the one that's closest to that direction.
I think at this point we're not stealthing. We're just trying
Yeah.
to not look like tourists.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, stealthing
Probably
didn't work.
failing miserably.
It seems like ordinary people would seem to leave us alone unless we're causing trouble.
Yeah. Every time you walk by someplace, they shut the doors and pull the shades.
Oh,
Nice place to visit. I wouldn't want to live here.
I hope it's they're scared of us and not something else.
Do I
Let's
get
just
the sense that they're all aware that we're not from here?
I think this place is just an evil place to be, and in general, I don't think they want to mess with anybody. They don't want to
well,
contact
they don't
anyone.
seem to be doing that for anyone but us.
But
so
us. So I'm wondering if it's just because it's the four of us, or if it's just me, or if it's just because we don't fit in.
I don't want to hang around and find out.
I guess. We'll
yeah,
keep
we just
walking.
need to move.
I mean, the
as
only
fast
way
as
to
possible.
find that out is to ask somebody,
Ask
right?
someone, and honestly, I don't think we want to start asking questions. Let's just get a move on, get M's mom, and then get the heck out of here.
So you notice that as you're going, roll me a perception check actually, and I'll tell you if you actually do notice this.
Again?
Well, same.
Natural
I
20.
rolled this. Jesus.
22. My robe's giving me advantage, so that's how I'm always
Oh,
good.
Yeah.
gotcha. That's
He,
good.
he can
That's
see in all
nice.
directions.
I also have a passive perception of 17 and a passive investigation of 21 for what that's worth.
Wow.
It's what
Well,
he does.
I have good passive perception. I
I
have
know.
an 18 passive perception.
So who actually who rolled over a 15?
Hope.
Just Khonnos. Khonnos, you notice that as you travel further and further north, more and more of those individuals with gray and black armor with the crest on their shoulder are sort of following you.
I just whisper to everybody, don't look back, keep walking, but we're being followed.
Is it
Or more of the tax collectors.
great?
How many more do I see?
You see probably 4. I mean, it's not like a giant mob following you, but
How
they're obviously like tracking you and keeping
Are
track
they the
of
same
you.
ones?
No.
How do they know us? How are we standing out so blatantly?
We smell different. I don't know.
I say we just keep walking until they do something.
Yeah.
Maybe there's no halflings and Lutrinians here, and that's how we stand out.
As we're walking, do I notice any? I'm going to keep an eye out for just like alleyways to potentially duck down if we need to try to duck out of sight or something.
Oh yeah, there's alleyways all over. I mean, this thing is there is not a straight road to be found, and every single curvy, convoluted roadway has at least 3 or 4 alleyways amongst it. I mean, this is like a big city. It's like the slums of a big city. The buildings are all very dilapidated and gray. There are some areas where there's rubble around, the entryways and things like that. I mean, it's really not in good repair. It's in disrepair.
Okay.
I kind of lean over to the group and I'm like, so if they decide to approach, do we split and run or do we turn and fight?
Turning
say
and
maybe-
fighting the local guard seems like a terrible idea and will get us locked up.
If we're going to fight, try to get them in an alley and out of sight. Be how I do it.
We cannot let more people.
We just prepare to pay a fee if they harass us for it.
I mean, with what money?
I don't know. Do we have like a gem we can give them?
Not on me.
Give him even if we did have the amethysts, those apparently are important. So, I have one idea, a really, really bad one. And I'm gonna pat my chest and go, what if I told them we're here sent by my master and show them the amulet?
I don't know if that explains the whole lot of us.
Yeah.
They're under my orders. The goblin that was wearing this was the boss. And the other goblin said that whoever wore this was the boss. And that the big boss is, who.
But that's assuming like everybody in the city knows what the evil plan is. I mean,
That's true.
I don't think they need to know what the evil plan is. They just need to know he's an important MVP person.
So are you discussing this, or are you actually you're gonna like flop that symbol around?
No. We're walking and
Okay.
discussing this as like we're going. Like
because that might get us, that might get us more negative attention because they want to bring a leader in on it, and then they'll tell someone up the chain that we're here.
Yeah.
If we want to lay low, that's probably not a good thing to flash around.
Might get them off our case though if we're like, oh, we're just here because he told us to come here. If you want to mess with him, then you can take this.
I mean, it's a 50-50. We just don't know at this point. Again, I think we just keep walking until something happens.
I mean, that's what we're gonna do anyways. I'm just saying that's an option.
Are they like closing in on us, or are they just like following at a consistent distance, or
they're just keeping tabs on you? Looks like.
Okay, then yeah, let's just keep walking until they try.
So at some point you get to a sort of like a crest of a higher area, and the rod wants you to turn slightly to the east.
Okay.
And you realize that this is the building that the rod is taking you to.
Oh dear
great.
God. Oh my God. That's way bigger than I thought it would be. I thought it would be like an underground lab, like no big deal. That's an issue.
So what I was talking about, the thing that might be able to get us inside.
So let me read you the description of this. It's built from dark black marble with feather patterns carved on the surface. There are statues of people bent under the burden, holding the structure aloft. So the building is not even on the ground. It's looks like it's balanced on the backs of the giant statues. There are 3 enormous towers that rise from this building in 3 different regions of it. One of them. Oh. Each of the. Oh, you need to get closer to see that. Sorry, here I'll show you the image again. You see the giant statues with the building sitting on their back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
This, as you draw closer to it, you see that there are people that are sort of waiting in line to get into this building.
Great.
It looks like there's only one way in.
There is an enormous staircase.
Well, do we just do the frontal assault and try to get in, or do we want to talk about a
So,
more stealthy?
If I show you this picture again, so you see this area right here looks
Yeah.
kind of like the entrance to a cathedral kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's where the staircase goes up into.
Okay.
We could try to just blend into the crowd and see if they maybe miss us or walk past us.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
just like everyone else has completely ignored us.
and the crowd isn't exactly getting in easily. I mean, that's what the long line is for. So there's obviously some vetting process and some gate or something that's keeping everybody
And
out.
Is the rod pointing down at any point, or is it just pointing up towards the since this thing is such a massive
It's
building?
pointing direct, so it's not actually
So-
pointing up. It's just pointing
At
But-
the building.
at the building, but the way into the building is up those stairs. There is
Yeah.
a gate between,
wanna
you know,
go
so there's a
around
line
it?
of people, and then there's sort of a gate structure, and there are two guards, and then there are stairs up.
I need to take a long rest, y'all. I prepared my spells for interrogation, not infiltration. I have nothing that can help at this point in time.
Let me tell you what the guards look like.
Should have mentioned that before we started.
I was anxious, okay?
Let's wait until tomorrow to rescue your mom. We can do that. We could have gone and dealt with the. You didn't send the Hokka to deal with the pup, right?
No,
No, I sent him to deal with the blue goblins in the
Alright.
jungle.
Well,
blue gobbles.
hopefully that doesn't lead to the dog getting loose or something.
So these guards are wearing helmets that have the beak of a bird coming out of them. And they have wing shapes all over their very dark black armor. You can't see any part of their face other than their eyes because the helmet covers their entire head and has like a bill of a bird of prey coming down.
Do we want to walk around the building and see if there's like a back entrance?
I mean, that's the only thing I can think of at this point.
Or do we want to walk up to the people that are waiting in line and ask them why they're waiting in line?
I'm almost tempted to do that, but based on the reaction to our presence as of currently, I don't know if we'll get an answer.
That's fair. We could try. Do you want me to go ask?
I think maybe Khonnos should.
Khonnos has blue skin.
He does?
And-
His skin is blue?
Blue skin and fluffy white hair. He's not exactly.
I stand out for sure.
I mean, I don't think any of us really fit in. Yeah, sure, Marcel, go for it.
So what are you doing?
I'm gonna walk towards the back of the line.
Okay. And then do what?
I'm gonna look up at the person in front of me and go, so what's the line for?
here to see High Priestess Nira.
Is that the only reason to go into that building?
Well, if you worship the queen, then you would use this as the temple.
And you have to wait to worship her?
She holds private audiences.
Oh, but what if we would just want to go inside to like pray in the open area and not see her personally?
You have to bribe the guards.
Fair enough.
With a bird. The ebony guard. They have to be bribed with a bird.
Really? There's birds here?
Right when you say that, you
Oh, God.
notice flying, like flocking around the upper tower parts of this building are enormous flocks of ravens.
Catch it.
A dead one or a live one?
I don't know.
What do I know of what did they say? Her queen. What did he say in reference to
High
the-
Priestess
High,
Nira.
High Priestess Nira.
Yeah, no, but the who they worshipped.
The queen.
The queen, they just said the queen.
The queen. What do I know about a goddess called the queen?
Roll a history check. Or religion, I suppose.
I rolled a 3 on the dice, so this is gonna go great either way. Yeah, I have a 1 on both, so that's a 4.
Yeah, you know that on the Dark Plateau, they might have an entirely different knowledge of. I mean, that there's a different. I mean, it could be the same gods. They just call them different things. There's no
Mhm.
telling. I mean, it's
Okay.
really that that when you go from one plateau to another, it doesn't like they're not necessarily a one-to-one relationship, but there might be.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's hard to say.
Did we see birds anywhere else when we were coming this way?
Not really. No. I mean, just
So they're like
in
flocked
general
in this building,
around. They're flying around the towers. Yeah.
right?
How high up?
Those towers, 70 feet. But that's on top of, so there's probably 50, 60, 70 feet of stairs going up to the,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
would be the
Mhm.
doors, and then 70 feet above that. So 150
So the
feet.
ravens are way higher than.
Way, well, they're flocking, so they're sort of flying down and then around, and then they land, and then, yeah.
I mean,
they're,
I'm assuming they roost on the like
Okay.
yeah.
roofs, and yeah.
Okay.
See, this is the part where my character's like, it's okay. I learned lightning bolt. It's 100 feet. I can shoot one out of the sky.
Mm.
Meanwhile, player me is like, no.
Well,
Okay.
I do have dominate monster or creature or whatever it's called. What is it
Mhm.
called?
Dominate
I'm
monster.
literally- Yeah.
Depends, because there's quite a few different versions.
Yeah.
I'll
What's-
thank him
Okay.
and then go back to the party and basically let them know what I learned.
What's the range on your dominate spell, Emmeryn?
60 feet.
Ah.
That's why I was wondering. It's
Um,
not very close.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't looking for birds in the other parts of the city,
Yeah,
so you
no.
didn't
Yeah,
notice
true.
them, but that
No.
doesn't mean there weren't any there.
But I mean, to
Yeah.
be fair, ravens call a lot, so I feel like we
Mhm.
would have at least heard them, if not seen them.
Right.
But it was really quiet, you said.
But she didn't say you had to bring a raven. She just said a bird.
Bird.
Yeah. Well, I go back to the party. I tell them this. Does anyone know anything about a queen
A bird.
goddess? Likes
Would I know
possibly
anything?
birds?
You can roll religion.
Nah, that's not great.
Emmeryn, you know a lot about religion.
11. Sure I do.
It's not my strong suit, but try.
You know that
You know something.
well, because Emmeryn trained in another temple, so you know that there are some who believe that the dead are ushered to an afterlife by the Raven Queen. And that therefore some individuals worship the Raven Queen because the Raven Queen is not necessarily evil, but will take care of your soul and your mortal body if need be.
Okay. I relay that to the party.
That sounds somewhat comforting.
What doesn't sound like a good idea is killing a bunch of birds. Or a bird, especially
Because
not a
if
raven.
it's sacred, if they're sacred, we don't want to show up with a dead
Yeah,
bird.
let's go give the Raven Queen's guards a
Dead
dead raven. That's probably gonna get us killed on the spot.
I have a way I could try to catch one, but I'm gonna stick out like a sore thumb doing it.
Did we bring like the cage? The little
Actually, did you bring that?
No, it's still
Yeah.
on the.
Oh, it's
No,
still
I took it
on
off
the
of it.
goblin.
Oh, did you take it off of it?
Yeah, I took it off of
Did
him.
we?
Oh.
Yeah, because he had to eat and everything.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Okay, we have that cage. I was gonna say, what if we need to like entice a raven to like if we have the favor of a raven, then we can get in because the Raven Queen, you know?
That's kind of why I like the dominate monster thing.
Hey, Khonnos, have you ever
Yeah.
considered getting another kind of familiar and just getting a raven familiar?
That's a thought I was just thinking. I could also try to fly up and get one and catch one.
Good luck with that. Don't get your eyes picked out. You have a lot of them.
Otto is
Good
going
point.
crazy in his little bucket now.
Oh, wait, what's going on there?
Otto's going crazy. He is so upset. He's so upset you thought of trading him in for a bird.
No, I'm
He's
not.
so upset.
I'm not trading you in. We're not doing that. At most, it would be, if I did it, it would be temporary. But I don't think we're gonna do that.
He's mad at you. He won't even look at you.
Aw.
He did the equivalent of an octopus crossing its
Crossing
arms.
all 8 tentacles.
All 8 arms turning away
Yeah,
from you.
What if we just polymorph Otto into a raven?
We can try giving them an illusionary bird, but we don't know what they want.
We don't know if they can tell if there's magic either.
Well, as soon as they touch an illusion, it's gone. So
yeah, they pass through it.
Yeah, no, I would say somehow transforming Otto into a bird, but I don't have polymorphs, so that's not.
That would also take me an hour to do that.
But it's time to do a debrief anyway, so you get a couple of weeks to think about how you might want to deal with this.
Fair enough.
I did not expect you to go where you went.
You
Really?
didn't.
I did not. I thought you were going to stay and take care of the creature in the coral, and then sail to Cowport.
Nope.
You thought we would have ignored Emmeryn's mom locked up in
Emmeryn's
a
been
cell?
pretty insistent.
No, I mean but I thought maybe you would go to Cowport to get more information to find your way to wherever that was. That's what I thought.
Pretty the safe route. The smart route.
Yeah.
No, we're jumping major gaps
We
here.
are.
So
it just seemed like it was pretty imminent. The problem, the danger to her.
yeah.
I felt like it was pretty immediate. Personally. But
Okay.
that's also a personal thing.
I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, I could have actually thrown the map up and let you like in a
No worries.
digital image,
No
and
doubt.
not me holding it with a big old fold in it. So
I did find some small digital images of
yeah,
the things.
I
Mainly
just
'cause me,
yeah
I've actually sent my players to the Shadowfell, so
yeah
I recognize it.
yeah. No, that's fine. I thought you might, but
Yeah.
whoops. I thought you might, but I wasn't prepared for you to go there yet. So in terms of maps and whatnot, so it's all right.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
I had to step away from it. How did we get away from the guards? I missed that
We
part.
didn't. We stopped while deciding. We're debriefing.
Yeah, so I pinned the debrief topics. If my computer would catch up now. Now it's going real slow because it's trying to find them. Okay.
Yep.
The only one I didn't pin was what Matt said right after I pinned them,
That's right there.
which is
Honestly,
passive
I'd
skills.
say player knowledge versus PC knowledge seems like a good topic considering what happened this session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's pretty much what we were getting at there. Yeah, because like I don't know who else knows about the Shadowfell, or I mean the Raven Queen is pretty commonly known now thanks to Critical Role, but Shadowfell is another topic entirely. But yeah, that moment where you're like, hey DM, how much does my character know, because I know too much.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So player knowledge versus character knowledge.
It goes both ways too, because there's the possibility that the player knows more than the character, and there's the possibility that the character knows more than the player.
And
So-
both can be played correctly and incorrectly, right? I mean,
Right. So here's what I attempt, and I can't say that I often succeed all that well. But so, for example, to actually highlight an example from tonight's game, when Emmeryn rolled her religion check, the DC was very low, right? Because Emmeryn studied in a temple. She's a priestess of another god, so she would be familiar at least with what types of other gods are worshipped outside of her own focus. She might not know details of worship of the Raven Queen, but she would definitely know that there is something about the Raven Queen. So the DC was fairly low for some basic information, whereas Marcel's DC was much higher because there's no real reason for Marcel to know that. So that's how, as a DM, I try to deal with the thing that happens when the character would actually know more than the player might know, right? Because there's a lot about this world that you don't know. And in fact, even being in the quote Shadowfell right now, actually you're on the Dark Plateau, which has some differences. So even though I'm showing you pictures from a specific book, you're not in the place where that book is at. You're in Shadowport, right? So
we're in your version of this.
You're in my version of it. So there are some things that you may know and you may not know, and that don't actually match up or whatever. But so for me to try to emulate the idea that some of you would have knowledge that you yourself don't have, but your PC would have, I change DCs. That's how I do that.
I think that's something that not all players realize is happening behind the screen, because I run into that problem a lot. I do the same. If I think a character should know this, I lower the DC, and if a character has no reason to know, then I put the DC up. But then I have players who the player knows their character should know this and start asking for advantage. And I'm like, I can't do both.
Right. Well, and so sometimes, so that's why I say I'm not always successful at it, because sometimes I realize sort of after I've asked for a roll that I should have just given you the information because it's something your character would know. But once I've asked for a roll, I kind of have to make, like I'm in a, I try to follow the idea of, if there's a roll, there should be a consequence for success or failure, right? It shouldn't just be, oh, roll to succeed, but if you fail, then there's nothing exciting, right? Like I try to aspire to that. I don't always succeed at that. But one of the ways to try to make that work is to just give the players information when their character would actually know it. The problem is none of your characters really know anything about Shadowport.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes
Darkport?
in. Darkport, yeah, Shadowport, Darkport, whatever.
I think it was
yeah.
Darkport.
Yeah.
I
I've got
tend to-
Shadowfell on the brain because
Yeah.
So
I tend to do degree of failure for that. If I've already if I realize, oh, they should have known something basic. So if they fail, well, yeah, there's a goddess that is associated with ravens. That's it.
right.
If they failed even the low DC, and then give them more information if they rolled higher.
Yeah. So now let me flip the question back then. What do you do when you're a player and you think you might know more than what actually your PC should know? How do you deal with that?
I find when I'm in those situations, I find it sometimes difficult to try to ask the question about what do I know or something in a way that doesn't reveal or doesn't necessarily give away that I, as the player, know something that the character potentially does. But it's a lot of times it's hard for me to do.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay.
say, because the couple of times I kept asking Marcel about the pendant, I personally knew they're hiding something, but they rolled so high on their deception that Emmeryn would not have an idea, and that frustrated me to no end.
Right.
But you just kind of have to go with it at that point and just be like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But you do have license to keep pushing though, because what you do know is we know the nature of the pendant and that
Right. So
it was taken and put on, and then now there's some evasive questioning going on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, which that's enough to raise suspicion and wonder what's going on.
And this also gets back to that agency question that we talked about a couple of episodes ago, where you're wanting to try to make it so that your character can get this information out of this other character, but if that player doesn't, they're using their own agency and they don't want to tell you because whatever reason, doesn't matter what the reason is, they just don't decide they don't want to tell you. That's where that sort of agency question really you butt heads, because everybody around the table. So the good thing is, if you have a good group, and I think we're a good group, when you have a good group, we're sitting around the table and two PCs are butting heads or having an interaction that is causing a little bit of frustration or whatever, but no one's mad at another person, and no one's like thinking, oh, this isn't fun, this isn't what's supposed to happen, I'm just going to beat you into submission and make you do this thing or say this information or whatever. Like, you're just like, okay, I'm frustrated, now I got to figure out another way to try to hit this later and get this information later. And that's just the give and take of my player agency stops where your player agency begins, right? And that's hard. And it's even harder when there's excess knowledge that you actually know something. I mean, you know something about that amulet thing that Marcel has around their neck, but you don't know everything that it does, but you know it's something. And so, yeah, that's hard. It's hard.
As I've been playing more and more in different games, one habit I've been seeing myself I do a lot is I tend to ask a lot of leading questions, which are not really the best way to go about trying to ask questions or get knowledge. I think a better way to do is maybe try to just ask it from the perspective okay, does the character know this? Can the character do this? See this, et cetera, rather than do I know what's going on? Do I see that thing over there? So trying to just sort of separate you, the player, and really step into the shoes of you, your own character, and take it from that perspective.
I mean, it's kind of like what I did with Marcel, right? Like, I know as I got more information, I'm like, okay, me, the player, realizes what's going on, but I know for a fact Marcel has no reason to know that information. So, hey, DM, how much does my character know about what they're hearing?
Right. Yeah.
And there's also times where like is it, even have to ask the question, is it appropriate based on what your character's story is? Would they even know about anything? Like when you were talking about you can roll religion and see if you know about the raven. I'm like, I'm not going to roll because my character would have no concept of that.
There's also another aspect of this that happens, and that is and it's kind of rare because it's not really something that that happens in a lot of other hobbies, right? And that is that at the same time as you're a participant in this thing that we're doing, you're also an audience member. And so it's kind of a little bit like seeing a movie you've already seen. Like, okay, you know about certain things, and so if you're looking at a movie that you've already seen, you already know kind of what the what the twist is and how it's going to be resolved and all that. So you might just be watching it because you enjoy it, so you're watching it again. Or you might be watching it because you want to see if there were any clues that you missed or something that you didn't see on the like. So there's different kinds of ways of being an audience, and that's true for RPGs as well. There's a different kind of way of being an audience if you're because right now you're playing you're not playing a published adventure. I almost said non-written adventure, but so it's you're not playing something that I'm getting out of a book, right? Like I'm pulling pieces out of different places for locations and whatnot, but the story here is completely out of my head. It's not about something that you actually could get access to, and so so there's partly an element of you don't know what's going on as a person playing a game, but then there's an element of some things sound really familiar, and you might be an audience member towards seeing how I present that and like, well, how is this happening and what exactly is going to happen? And we don't really know that because unlike watching a movie for the second time, you're not watching it for the second time. You're watching something that has some similar elements but might be totally different. So there's an odd kind of audience thing going on there that happens when we talk about player knowledge versus character knowledge. And I think different people deal with it in different ways.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's also the difference between we are aware that this is a homebrew setting, but we're still playing D&D. So there's elements that are going to be from D&D that may have changed, like the blue goblins, et cetera, et cetera. And as a player, it's fun to kind of see how are you twisting those things, because like it's fine. I think we're players who are very happy with homebrew changes to the base system, but it's also fun to see how those changes work or
Right.
what shows up that we recognize, or how long it takes us to recognize what things are.
Right. Yeah. There's some element of, oh, that's what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it happened to me with the
Okay.
bowl last week because
Mhm.
I have all the compendium unlocks on Roll20. I was looking up for an elemental. So I looked up elemental, and then suddenly the list that shows up showed bowl of control.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
And I had that moment of like, oh,
Yes.
just something he made up. It's something that's in the book. Because like, yeah, it
Yeah.
could have been like we know only how this one works, and
Yeah.
there's nothing saying that that's gonna work like the one in the book, because this is your world, not
Right.
Adventurers League.
And most things don't work exactly. Like every single
Mm.
thing that might seem like it's out of the book, I've changed. Like I changed something about it. Even something very slight, like the blue goblins, they're not just different because their skin is blue, right? They have other things that they're doing. And that bowl of control and most of the magic items that you have are based off of a core item that is in the books, but it might not work exactly. Or often what I do is I put drawbacks on those things, right? That's why when I sent you your information, I said, well, here's the benefits of using that, and here's the drawbacks of using that, because I want you to have all that information so you know exactly what's happening when you use that item, not just I'm going to figure out a way to screw you over at some point if you use that item. But like, here's what's going to happen. Once you've attuned to that item, here's what's going to happen when you use it, because that's now known to you. But it might not be exactly what's written in the book. So,
yeah. And I honestly, I like that because it makes it more, it goes back to the player versus character, right? It makes it more possible to stay within the framework of what my character knows about this item versus what the player knows because they ran into this item in another game. So there's still that like uncertainty of not knowing exactly how, especially in my girlfriend actually got on my case on this because we're a group of magic users. Every single one of us are casters.
right.
And we don't have identify. we don't have identify, and we have a treasure trove of items that have not been identified. We have just been messing with them to
Yeah.
figure them out because we
Yeah.
do not have identify, and that's just
And it's
because she plays so many games. She's just horrified by the idea of a whole party of magic users without identify.
Yeah.
Because I think I almost took one of the magic initiate feats for the purpose of taking that. So that maybe if we make it to level 12 without blowing up ourselves up by trying to see what these things do, that might happen.
So
Maybe
actually,
one day.
yeah, that brings up something that I actually had to make a decision about in this game, and that is I could have given you those items and said, well, you don't have identify. You got to figure out what they do. But I knew right when I was thinking about those items, I thought to myself, okay, I'm either going to make you waste resources to identify them and get the information anyway, or it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun to have 3 sessions where you're trying to figure out what these magic items are doing. And then later on, there's a long game where you're going to come back with the consequences, but you're not going to know about them at first.
Yeah. 'Cause I think-
Or just give you the information, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the attuning rules in 5e, because if you attune to a magic item that is attunable, you learn everything about it. And I've been playing a long time, and I remember games where you would have to like barely sip a potion to see what it tastes like and does it tingle or not, and try to figure out like what's it going to do, and you know,
But there's a difference there between attunable items and non-attunable items.
sure.
Now, I do believe that even with non-attunable items, you can just spend a amount of downtime
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
study an item
Mhm.
and figure out the basic usage, but it's only the basic usage
Right.
and not any of the drawbacks or
Right.
possible deeper usages that it
Mhm.
might have, or like details like, oh, how many times can I use this, unless you
Right.
actually try using it.
Yeah.
Like what we did with the water bowl.
Right. I mean,
But
it's
you
just
have to accept a level of tedious, like you said, downtime or wasted game
Mhm.
time that's devoted to that. Or the end result is the magic items aren't ever going to be used because they're just going to
Right.
sit there in a stockpile because you just don't have time in the game
Right.
to devote to them to get to them.
Well, and that's why I just told you all what they did, what they were, because then you can make a choice about whether to use them with all the knowledge, right?
And I mean, you went kind of sorta because you did that for all
Yeah.
the attunement items, but all the
Mhm.
non-attunement items, we've had to test them out. And like,
Yeah.
we have that necklace of beads, which I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I know at least the basis of it, but using it has that risk of, well, how do you use it? We know it's a bead. That's about it. And
Right.
same thing happened with a lot of the other ones. I mean,
Mhm.
even going back to the bowl, we were like, well, let's put water in it. It looks like it's
Right.
got water on the outside. Let's see what happens.
Right, right. Well, and that was my compromise with myself, right? So
Mhm.
I told you about the most powerful items you have, and then you have a choice whether you want to use them, how you want to use them. But then I get to have a little fun.
With some of the
With-
other ones, like the
yeah.
rods and the candles and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we have
And we
the
like kind of
teleporting sword.
we're kind of like too spooked to use some of the like the candles. Like, oh, well, these have the evil eye symbol on, so maybe that's a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah. Or like the rod that says stop. We kind of assume that it stops something, but we don't know exactly what that is. So we're kind of
But then,
scared to use
but
it.
then here's the downside is here we are like 4 more sessions in, and those items haven't even been used because
Right.
we just haven't had
Mhm.
the time to figure out what they are. And so there's a good chance that the entire campaign could go on and we wouldn't use them.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
because at the point where it might come into use, we have to make that split second decision
Yeah.
of,
Mhm.
do I risk trying to use this untested item and hope that
Yeah.
our guess is correct?
Right. Right.
And that's honestly what I really like about it, is because I almost used that rod, but I was like, if this backfires, we could be just done.
Mhm. Right.
So I think that almost makes it more fun. Just
Mhm.
that like added risk element, and that just might be like
Right.
my
So
personal opinion, but
I'll tell you this, that to make the decision about whether to tell you or not, one of the things that I thought about was I gave you things that you could use, right? I didn't give you anything that is absolutely necessary for the game, unless I told you all the details of it.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that I didn't give you a lot of details, you could use it, you cannot use it. It's not gonna be a case where, David's saying, well, that we could go the whole game and not use a couple of those rods.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not going to change anything, right?
Mhm.
I mean, if you decide to use them, it'll change something. It'll change whatever's happening then, and then you'll learn what it does. But not using it is not going to. In other words, it's not a locked door, right? It's not that if you don't use it, suddenly, oh well, you went the whole time and you didn't win the game because you didn't use that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things I thought about actually as I was making that decision of what to tell you.
I can't wait to use the beans to try and get some birds to come towards us.
Oh, all the random things that those are gonna do.
Funny.
No, but I think it'll be fun to like, even if we don't use all of them, like at the end of the game, if we're like, oh, what did this item do? Then just go back and think about how much easier life would have been
If we tried this item
if
here
we
and that
tried
item
this
there.
and the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun. And even if we use it like later in the game, like, oh my god, we could have used that to sneak on this boat or get away from this
Yeah.
person. Like,
Mhm.
Or vice
think
versa.
that's just-
Remember that time we almost used it and how much it would have fucked us
yeah.
over?
Right. So
And I think that's just like being an audience member, just like knowing, like having that information now,
Mhm.
just like, oh, that would have been way better, way easier, but it's still like a funny thing and it still makes this like amusing and like fun to
Yeah.
just figure it out.
So
There's like a mystery solved.
I have a sort of pseudo policy, and that is at the end of something, I don't tell you stuff that you missed. Right? Like if my party goes through a dungeon and they miss like 5 secret doors and a whole, hoard of treasure, I don't come back and say, well, you missed these secret doors and you missed like 10,000 gold. Like I don't do that. Because it doesn't
rubs it in.
well, it doesn't do any good to tell you, well, here's what you missed, right? Like then it just makes people feel stupid, like, oh, I missed a clue, or I missed something I should have paid attention to, and that's not actually helpful, right? Like that doesn't.
I guess
So,
okay, yeah,
yeah.
no, I understand that, but I will say, yeah, I'm a terrible DM in that if something interesting was skipped because they
Mhm.
decided to go another way, not so much like, oh, you missed this
Mhm.
gold or whatever, unless it was something really interesting or something. I like sharing the like interesting stuff that they missed
Mhm.
afterwards, so that they can at least know like afterwards that hey, there's this thing that you guys missed, so I'm sharing it with you now, kind of thing.
Right,
Not
yeah,
like, oh, haha, you missed this. It would have been cool.
yeah. I mean,
Well,
I'm not. It's not a judgment that I think, oh, you shouldn't do that or whatever. It's just more about like because here's the thing, like playing old school. Like the whole point of the game of an old school dungeon crawl is go through and try to find every single thing. So that's why
Yeah.
you're using 10-foot poles. You're,
Yep.
sending chickens in to trip all the traps, and
sheep down the
yeah,
hallway.
yeah,
Yep.
you've got
Mob
your
squad,
hirelings,
D&D.
right? And the whole point of that is, so, if there's a crystal sticking out of a wall, you're going to touch it. Somebody's going to have to touch it. It might not be one of the PCs. You might send a hireling to do it, because you got to figure out what that thing does, because you don't leave anything untouched. But that's a
Yeah.
very old school, like dungeon crawly way to play. It's a certain style of play, and I love it because that's how I started. But like that's not how 5th edition really runs. 5th edition is a different game than that. So there's no real like, I don't know. It's a
It comes up a lot in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, because it's based off of an early dungeon crawl
right. Yep.
game. So it is a very vast crawling dungeon full of things to find.
Hmm.
But my group, the first 2 levels, they mapped out every nook and cranny, because one of their
Right.
characters basically had a job from the Zentarum to map out the dungeon. So
Right.
they, on purpose, because they were mapping it out, knew which areas they hadn't gone to and went to them and explored every last corner to get the full map.
Right. Well, and part of that game back then was you mapped so that you could see where there was like an end of a passageway, and you might not find the secret door, But when you look at the map overall, after you're almost
You're
done,
missing a chunk.
you could
Yeah,
see where you're missing places. There might be a secret door there. There might, and that's part of the
Yeah.
game. That's part of
Yeah,
the
it's
way
like
to play the game.
it's like based on stuff I've drawn. There should be more. Like I'm in a group playing Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which is another kind of update of a lot of older type adventures. And yeah, we just did a part that's in the middle of it because it has that very old school type of feeling. Yeah, you're checking every hallway, you're checking every door, and and they're all set up to be traps to fall on you and squish you for taking the effort to investigate every nook and cranny. One thing I was going to say, if you don't tell, one benefit of not telling the players what the things that they missed or overlooked means that you can reuse them again in your next game, and they don't have any idea what's coming.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I will say it ends up being a very different game, because for those 2 first floors, it felt a bit like a slog, because there's a lot of, again, because this is an updated version, there's not as many traps. The first 2 levels have maybe 3 traps on them, and it took them like months to go through those 2 levels. Now they're going through levels like 1 a session.
Right.
And they're seeing maybe 10% of a level, because they're going more for the story part and less for the exploring the dungeon part.
Right.
So there's places they want to go to. There's places they've heard of deeper down. So they're only looking for how to get deeper down into the dungeon. Unless something happens to grab their attention, they're zooming past levels now. And honestly, it's a very different feel. It has its ups and downs. I think 5th edition is better with the zooming past, because we're following story beats rather than let's explore every nook and cranny, because it's a 5th edition module. Every nook and cranny isn't interesting. There's a few nooks and crannies that are interesting. The rest are just a slog.
Right.
Yeah. The other benefit of skipping a lot of stuff is, the more you skip past, the more random encounters you avoid, potentially the more resources you are able to save for like the things that really matter, like the areas you really want to go to. Okay, we're not going to look down every single hallway and maybe fight 50 different times and waste all of our spells and potions and whatnot before we even get to the thing that we're shooting for. We're just going to aim for that.
Yeah.
That's partly why I was trying to bring up a couple times, like, hey, I could just use gates and maybe not have to slug through this whole city that have no idea what's in. But,
And this actually
but
connects,
I don't want to take away the DM's fun either. So
but this actually connects right back to that player knowledge versus DM knowledge, or versus character knowledge, versus DM knowledge. But because there's also an aspect of some of those old school dungeons, if you played through them and then you went through them again and it was just played as written, like you would know where that stuff was. And so that's hard to not, I know there's a trap down there, I'm going to specifically search, or I know there's a door over there, I'm going to specifically search, because I've done that before as a player, not as a character. It's really hard to not do that when you're doing that old school dungeon type thing. But when you're playing on story beats, it's a lot easier in a way to say, well, my character doesn't know that, and so I'm just going to ignore that place because there's no reason for us to go down there anyway. Let's follow the story and go this way. Give or take, it's just a different style of game. It's literally a different game.
What we actually had to do, because Dungeon of the Mad Mage had the first level as a preview on Roll20 before the release of the book. And because I have a subscription, we were able to play it. And so we did it as a one-shot.
Right.
And then pretty much the same group that did the one-shot participated in the now campaign version. Right. So what I decided to do was, what happened in the one-shot, canon.
Nice.
That's a previous group that went through,
right.
And that meant that the second group that went through found a bunch of dead bodies in a bunch of different places, and places that were actually looted.
Had to deal with the mess that the first group already went through.
Yeah. And that's perfect. That's the way to do it, right? That's the perfect resolution for that.
They ended up following the tracks of the first group to they had stopped right before a door that had a bunch of monsters in it. So I had them go through that door and find the bodies.
Nice. Yeah.
Only one of the original I made survive, and to this day I probably regret it, because the one magic item she had picked was a cloak of displacement.
Oh.
And she gifted that to the party for saving her life and escorting her back out. Cloak of displacement. Bane in my life.
Yeah. David, you're quiet.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I just think the play agency thing it's a trap, really, when it comes down to it. I haven't had a whole lot of good experiences with it, just because I think it's a situation you want to try to avoid at all costs, because what you have competing selfish interests, and so now you're kind of weighing how individuals deal with the selfish drive for their character, and to hope that multiple people will be able to meet evenly in the middle. It rarely happens. I think at some point you have it's a tug of war, and someone's pulling harder than the other. Generally, is in my experience. So it's just a situation where things can go wrong. I think for the party and the game, I just see it as a potential bad area for friction.
You mean when one person wants something and wants to force
Sure.
the other players to do it? Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking
it
about?
can go multiple ways. Yeah, one person can try to use the information to force the other party to do one thing, or one person can use the information to hurt the other character to benefit themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
I've actually, a short side note, I know we're
Yeah.
running a little late, but came across that in my current campaign because we just had a player kind of enter the game, and she wants her backstory to tie in with another person's backstory. And
Okay.
my brother is actually, he came to me and he said that he felt like his character was being written for him. So I felt like it was my job as the DM to sit both of them down and be like, okay, what do you want to happen? What do you want to happen? And it's my job to kind of combine the two and make it make sense so that they both kind of can collaborate while still getting like it's still hard and I'm still trying to work it out, but they both are kind of it's hard. So I can see where that can become an issue. Luckily, they're both good friends and we're all good friends. So it's like, okay, yeah, we can work it out. It'll be fine.
Because that's the problem, right? They're not really collaborating. It's not like they're writers in a writer's room trying to work together to write a TV show. They have competing interests that they're both trying to, get out of it.
Right.
I mean, I think at that point, what you did is the important part, sitting them down and being like, okay, we're going to work this out, talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, at some level, if there's strife or conflict amongst the group, if that's leading to behavior of a player that is disruptive to the group, or that's hurtful to the group, or that makes someone not have as much fun, then that's when you can't resolve that in game. You have to resolve that outside of game. So yeah, you did exactly the right thing.
Yeah, but you won't know that unless it goes to an extreme.
Right.
I mean, there are many micro versions of that where that's happening all the time, where people are feeling that effect or pressure, but you don't know it. It's not like they don't verbalize it or it doesn't come up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of give and take there, that like how much are you willing to take in terms of compromises because someone else's wants to do something. And then I think at that point it's also important as a player to recognize, hey, if you're feeling like if you feel frustration building, it's time to talk to the DM about it, so that you don't start like turning it into aggression during game time,
or just losing interest in the game,
interest in the game, because sure, the DM can help with that kind of thing, but only if they know that it's happening. And a lot of people tend to not in these games. Like, it's one of the main things. You go on Reddit and there's a lot of people who are like, hey, this is happening in my game and I'm so frustrated about it. And everyone's like, talk to your DM.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Step 1, talk to your DM.
Yeah.
DMs can't solve the problem if they don't know it exists.
It's hard though, right? Because now we're talking about interpersonal communication, and honestly, a lot of people just aren't good at it. And I'm not playing on that stereotype of, people, certain type, like, there's that whole horrible stereotype of gamers in the basement and they're socially inept and all that. That's all BS, right? I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about people. People in general are not good at interpersonal communication. I mean, I'm a professor at a small college, and half of my colleagues aren't good at talking to other people, and they're freaking teachers, I mean, it's a thing, right? Like, lots of people just don't have the skill set to talk to other people in a way that is fulfilling to both parties. You know what I mean? especially if there's a conflict and if somebody has
Yeah.
conflicting feelings about something. So many of us are taught to be conflict averse, and just you're not allowed to hit a problem head on. And that's actually something I struggle with. I'm conflict averse either. I don't like fights. I'm not from a family that yells and screams and gets it all out and then everybody hugs and you're done. Like I'm from a quiet, like when you have a problem, you talk about it, but you shouldn't be letting it get to the point where the conflict is so heated that there's really strong emotions, because then you're holding it in and then you're seething. You know what I mean? Like that's such a fine balance. And look, I'm 45 years old and I still work on that. Like I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with myself and other people. And like, so I think it's just a lot to expect from other people just to be able to communicate with others. But that's why you see all those Reddit threads. Well, here's what's happening and I don't know what to do. You got to talk to somebody. You have to talk. And that's the only answer in most of those cases. But unfortunately, sometimes people don't get along, and it doesn't matter if you talk to them. It's just not a good mesh. There's just something wrong with the group, or with the people that are in the group aren't able to work together as well. And sometimes you have to leave a group. Like that's how it happens. And I know a lot of people don't ever like to go to that extreme, but I've kicked people out of groups before, you know.
I
And
think it happens more. It becomes more dangerous when it's an in-person group, because
Mhm.
then you have that feeling of, well, but where else am I going to go?
Right.
This
Right.
is the only group near me that I can play with. So
Mhm.
if I leave, then I'm left with no game.
Right.
And
And
I mean,
Or like,
a lot of people are like, "Hey, no game better than bad game."
right.
yeah.
But if
Or
those
like,
are also the people you consider your friends, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a friend loss as well.
yeah, it's like if you got good relationships out with each other outside of the game, like it's work or whatever, you see and interact with those people on a regular basis, like at work, school, whatever. That's like, okay, how you potentially put a kink in those relationships just because something going wrong in a game.
Yeah.
And I had a situation where I was DMing I want to see, at least a year and a half ago. Essentially, like, had a player that was losing interest, was not showing up. And I basically had to say, look, it just doesn't seem like you're still interested in this, that you want to continue. I don't think it's be a good idea that you continue with this, but it doesn't mean that I want that to change the rest of our relationship. We generally were able to keep it the same. He eventually moved away, but
Mhm.
for the most part, I think we still were able to have a fairly good relationship despite that, because of the way I said, hey, I made a point to say, hey, look, I don't want this to affect the rest of our relationship. This just means, this activity just isn't a good thing for us to do together.
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean, I'm afraid I made it sound like, oh, these horrible people have to be kicked out of a game, and that's not. Sometimes people do just lose interest, but then they feel guilty, right? And they don't want to let someone else down, right? They feel guilty about that, or they feel bad about letting someone else down. So it's easier to just kind of ignore that and, oh, I won't deal with it and that problem will go away. But really, it's just making it worse because people don't know what's going on. And yeah, it's hard. It's
And I
hard.
mean, sometimes play styles don't mesh.
Hmm.
Like, you can be best friends, but if someone wants to look for every nook and cranny and the other one wants to go after story, they're gonna
Right.
butt heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Well, I think that is a good place to end, probably. And we've been going over our time limit anyway. So when I edit this, it ends up getting edited back down to about 3 hours anyway. So that's fine. Um, well, thanks everyone for listening / watching if you're watching. And thank you to my players again. And I think we can all say goodbye. And I will stop streaming. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Right.